Hey, hi, hello! My name is Fox Arie, and welcome to Fox Thoughts. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about my personal history with the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. Only specifically talking about the platformers that I've played, and mentioning briefly the ones that I haven't played but plan to in the future. I'm not going to be able to comprehensively go over everything. I'm going to completely skip over all the 8-bit Sonic games because I have no interest in them as of right now. I don't even have anything written down in my notes that, oh, I want to play this because I have a huge list of games I'm going to either replay or want to play in the first place. And I try to update it regularly when I see a game I'm interested in, what have you. And I do not have the 8-bit Sonic games at all on there. So that's not even going to be talked about that. That doesn't exist. Shut up. Um, Other than that, if I don't mention a Sonic platformer here that you care about or that you know of, it's not because I'm purposefully ignoring it. I just completely forgot it existed or I've never heard of it at all. And that happens, even though things that are very popular like Sonic, it just some things just fall through the crack, right? Like Sonic Chronicles. Have you heard anybody talk about that recently? I mean, maybe you have if you're in the community. People like to talk about random bullshit around these parts, but I haven't. I haven't heard no motherfucker talk anything about Sonic Chronicles. So, yeah. I mean, that's not even a platformer to begin with, but don't worry about it. If you never heard of it, please never play it or look into it any further than what you're hearing now. It's not worth your time whatsoever. But if you like shitty games, maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe you're AVGN for all I care. Blah. Before I get more sidetracked with my random mass tangents and this and that and hearsay or what say, let's just get started already. So, Sonic the Hedgehog 1. I mean, very iconic game, primarily designed to be a momentum based platformer with a cutesy but cool with the edge and attitude protagonist, except that it kind of fails to be what it has to be in the momentum platforming part. So, for those not entirely familiar with the series, you play as this guy. He's a blue guy. He has red sneakers. His name is Sonic the Hedgehog. He's a hedgehog and he run fast. However, in the very first game, he, huh. There sure is platforming there. It's not really momentum based. There are some momentum based obstacles throughout the game. That is definitely true, especially in the first few levels or the first like world or zone, whatever you want to call it. However, after that point, it just kind of becomes, hey, take your time or else you die kind of game. Which is funny because the whole idea and identity of Sonic the Hedgehog is, oh, let's go fast through a level as fast as possible. And you still could technically, beat levels as fast as possible and everything after the first world or zone. It's just that it doesn't really feel like the game was primarily designed with the fastness and momentum in mind. It just kind of felt like the game designers didn't know what else to do. They just kind of slapped a bunch of elements together. I mean, it's okay to have a game that's all about going fast to have slow moments. That's perfectly fine. And I like platformers that make you think, okay, where do I want to go next? Or how do I want to get over this obstacle or through this obstacle or what have you. But everything after the first zone, it just kind of feels slow and monotonous and not necessarily what I came here for. I personally find it fun. I like to go through this game every once in a while because it's short and easy, just something for my fingers to do. And the music is pretty bumping. But other than that, it kind of fails at being what it wanted to be after the beginning of the game, but there's still some fun to be had. I ultimately don't recommend this game for people who want to get into the Sonic the Hedgehog series. I would much prefer its sequel that we'll get to in just a moment here, but still, this is not really a great starting point. However, if you were growing up in the early 90s and you were a little baby boo, and then what, bam, Sonic appeared before you and you were like, whoa, that's a dude guy, bro. Then of course you would be like, oh, okay, let me just get the Sega Genesis. He looks cool and all right. Maybe you would love it. I know a lot of kids growing up with Sonic the Hedgehog, they like the idea of, oh man, this first level is so great to play through, and then everything else in the game feels like shit. To most people. For me, I don't really think it's like shit, but no, I mean, it's definitely very different. In any case, I adequately enjoy Sonic the Hedgehog, but it definitely has its flaws. And one of its flaws is getting its good ending requirement. So, in the Sonic the Hedgehog games, there's rings. If you get hit, you lose your rings, right? All of them. Every single ring you lose. And then if you get hit again with no rings, then you die. Game over. You lose a life. If you lose all your lives, you gotta start all the way back at the very beginning. Since these games are not super long, it doesn't feel like, oh man, there goes my life's worth of things I did. What? But it does sting when you're trying to get used to it. And like a lot of these older retro-y games, I don't know why I said retro-y. This is literally like over 32 years old. You know what I mean. With older games, they are designed to be hard and archaic so you can play it again and get better at it and eventually overcome those obstacles, which I personally enjoy if it's actually well designed or is fun to play. But the problem with getting the good ending is that you have to get 50 rings, get the end of the level. If there's no boss in the end of the level, then you gotta jump in a giant ring. All right, that is perfectly fine. That's a pretty good and adequate challenge up until that point. You gotta master the levels. You gotta understand. Oh, I gotta see where the obstacles are. Take my time if I want to, but not take too much time because after 10 minutes you die. So you don't want to die. You want to get through and not get hit as much as possible, what have you. But once you go into that giant ring, you then end up at the special zone. And in the special zone, it is nothing but a mindfuck of all time. And I mean that in the worst way possible. So, imagine a psychedelic background, and then the stage all around you spinning around, and you can barely move, and then you kind of don't know where you're going at all. There's no guidance. You're just trying to just get your way through. And then before you know it, you fall into these flashing balls, and then it's over. You get spit back out into the regular game. What the fuck happened? What is going on here? So, what you're supposed to do is make your way through the winding maze and get into this area that is surrounding the jewels that you need to get. They're called the Chaos Emeralds. Very important, very real. That's getting all six of them, and that's you the good ending, which is nothing but flowers growing around you and Sonic doing a relatively cool pose, I guess. But either way, if you don't even care about what the good ending is, and you just want to beat it 100% so to say, just for bragging rights, it is rough, really, to get the hang of it. I wouldn't say it's horrible. I was hamming it up a little bit, to be honest, but I really, really don't like it. I do enjoy the idea of you have to press yourself up against the walls or other platforms or what have you, and then jump off the surface and then kind of make your way around. Having limited control isn't necessarily the problem. It's just that the backgrounds are too not flashy, but there's a lot going on, and then the stage is constantly rotating, and then it's a lot to handle. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe that's the whole idea of let's just throw this crazy ass shit at them, make them feel like they're tripping balls and smoking that Mary Jane. But like after that initial whoa, it's over. You just kind of left with the feeling of, um, what is why is this fun? Which for most people it isn't. There are times where I am a bit of a masochist and I'm like, let's go for it. Let's do this as much as possible during my playthrough. But most of the times when I play through Sonic the Hedgehog 1, I just ignore this, even if I have the ring requirement, because it's just not for me. But other times I do just kind of want to jump in. It's just kind of fun to jump around. It's not great, and it is one of my least favorite special zones in the whole franchise. However, I mean, it has its merits. It just could have been way better. Luckily, the other special zones and the other games are better. Not all of them, but they definitely are way better and more comprehensible to most people playing the game that are familiar with general video game conventions than whatever the hell this is. So, the next game, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, is infinitely better than Sonic the Hedgehog 1. Never play that piece of shit ever again. No, I'm kidding. But I genuinely adore Sonic the Hedgehog 2. As I mentioned, I recommend people that want to get into the series play this one over the first because it does the whole momentum platforming, go as fast as you can, and getting just through the levels in a very satisfying way once you'll learn the layout without having to wait or go through just mediocre platform challenging way better. It pretty much does whatever Sonic the Hedgehog 1 was trying to do, just extremely better. It's not a perfect game. No game is perfect. Some come close, but no game will ever be perfect, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. However, Sonic 2 is just so good, and honestly, I'm just gonna throw this in there because why not? I genuinely feel that about the movies too. The first Sonic movie was like, it's okay, it's charming, it's fine, it's not bad, and it has its moments, but it's fine. You know, it is what it is. If you like it, I'm happy for you, but I'm not crazy about it. But the second Sonic movie, whoa, this is great, and it does have its flaws that share with the first movie here and there, but wow, what a great time, and I love it. It really is full of itself, and it's great, and it's just a delight for me to watch. Not everyone's cup of tea, obviously. That goes for anything and everything, but pretty much I think it's funny how my thoughts on Sonic 1 and 2, the games, also reflect the movies. So I figured why not just throw it in there just for the fun of it, for the hell of it even. In any case, on this bright and colorful adventure this time around, you have Tails the Fox. Miles per hour is his real name. And Miles, or Tails, however you want to call him, I'll just keep calling him Tails because that's just what he's called in general nowadays. Uh, he's there. He's there to exist to help Sonic. He's also a baby mode if you want to, play with a younger sibling or someone who was not super familiar with video games or anything like that, which is fun. It's nice to have someone else join you on an adventure, even though the camera always follows Sonic and Tails just kind of, I don't know, fucks off and dies. I mean, hey, at least it's just fun. If you want to have someone who is not as good at video games as you to tag along, or maybe you do have someone else who's good, just as good as video games as you tag along, and they just get God mode basically. They jump around, die, come back instantly, and it's fun. It has its merits. It's not the most fun multiplayer in the world. The game is definitely designed with single player first, and I appreciate that. I feel like all platformers should be designed with single player first in mind. But having a multiplayer option isn't inherently bad. It's just that when multiplayer is the main focus for level design, it just kind of crumbles and doesn't make platformers fun, whether they're 2D and 3D, in my opinion. Because now you have to accommodate for a group instead of just, one or two players. And that's a whole thing. I talked a bit about it before, but yeah, I figured I might as well mention it here since it doesn't really have that problem in the majority of the Sonic series, but still, that's just genuinely how I feel about that topic since I have played so many platformers in my time. In any case, yeah, Sonic 2, pretty good. The special stage is also great, and the way it's done as well is also very fun. So, in this game, you still need to collect 50 rings in order to access the special zones. However, you do not need to go to the end of the level to access them or challenge them, however you want to say. Instead, you have to reach the checkpoints. I didn't really mention that there were checkpoints in the first game. I just didn't really feel like it was that important to mention. However, there are checkpoints in these games, and if you have 50 rings and you hit up a checkpoint, then stars start to twinkle and swirl around the top of the checkpoint. If you jump in there, bam, you're in the special zone. Now, this time around, it's not really sloppy motions and it's very psychedelic. It's still a little psychedelic. It still has that energy going on, but it definitely is more toned down and way more easy for everyone and anyone to digest, even when first seeing it. I so that's good. That's a good start. But I genuinely enjoy the Sonic 2 special stage. So what you have to do is you gotta go forward. It's automatically going forward for you. You can go left to right, and you're on this half pipe. If you go fast enough up the half pipe, then you can like go all the way around, or you could just get some air a little bit in the outer region of the half pipe. You can't fall off; it's impossible. And you can also jump at any point. You can jump just on the ground, not moving anywhere. You could jump off the half pipe, or you could jump in midair down. And then you can also determine where you kind of land by what direction you're pressing while you jump off. It's pretty good. It still has that flavor and flow of momentum platforming that the whole idea of Sonic's ideology and whatever else is baked into here, and that's I think pretty good. Your main objective is to continue collecting rings. It really varies from what difficulty you're doing, not in terms of, oh, I pick a game difficulty, but as you collect more Chaos Emeralds, 7 this time, not 6, 7, we add a new one. It came out of nowhere. I don't know what the fuck happened. Hey, Mr. 7. In any case, you gotta keep collecting rings. It will tell you how much you need. Avoid bombs, because there's bombs now. Don't get bombed. Not cool. Ouchie wouchie. My knees are hurting. And you have to do that a few times. You have to collect as many rings as it tells you, get through to a checkpoint in there, and just do that until you get the Chaos Emerald. If you fail getting whatever amount of rings it tells you to get, then you just don't get it. But there's no penalty for not getting it. Since there's many checkpoints throughout the entire game, you basically have so many tries. And I think that's great. I think that's a great way to go about it. So you even if you fail and you're having a really hard time doing the harder ones or even the first couple, it still isn't necessarily like super demeaning and like, ah, you suck, play the game 1 million times to be able to actually do anything. No, once you figure out how it works, then you just kind of go in and be like, let's try again, let's keep, get the ring requirement and then hit the checkpoint and then try again, then get that ring requirement. I think is genuinely fun, but it does have its own flaws. So, if you're playing with Tails, and I believe in official releases of this game you can play without Tails, I'm not 100% sure. I know in the newer re-releases that you could play without Tails. I don't know if in the original you can. I'm not a super Sonic encyclopedia, so apologies there. But if you're playing with Tails, if Tails gets hit, they lose their rings. He loses his rings. And also, he has his own ring counter, too. So it could be kind of annoying where you barely just hit the ring requirement and you're right there, you're very close to the goal, and then Tails gets hit by a bomb, and then now you lost it, and wow, that just sucks. This is primarily why I play Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with Sonic only, because, well, I don't have to deal with that bullshit. I don't really have to deal with the possibility of Tails getting hit, and then I lose, even though it wasn't my fault. And Tails does directly follow behind you, just like in the main, levels and courses and what have you, except his movements are delayed intentionally, which, it's charming and cute in its own way, but charm can only get you so far when it functionally fucks you over. So, just, I guess if you want the authentic Sonic 2 experience, do play with Tails on if you're playing one of the newer versions, or if that's even an option in the original. But if you really want a more, okay, I want every decision to count, especially in the special zones, play without Tails. I love Tails a lot. He is my favorite Sonic character. I mean, I'm biased, obviously, but it's just not here, buddy. Just sit this one out. I'm sorry. But Tails isn't the only problem. No, no, no. In the original versions of Sonic 2, the render distance, or how far you could see, was pretty bad. So you can't even see very well ahead of time when rings will be in front of you, or bombs will be in front of you, or just anywhere else on the half pipe. In general, it's a great idea, and future versions of the game do let you see far ahead since technology has gotten better over the years, yada yada, rada dada. However, man, those original versions of this game is really tough for the special stages. It's just, oh, come on, I just want to see what's going on in front of me. That being said, it is, in my opinion, infinitely better than the first games, and just that, like I said, just genuinely that's how I feel about Sonic 2. 2 really deserves that title too. 2. Woo! Okay, I don't know what that's all about. Okay. Next on the chopping block is Bullshit, otherwise known as Sonic the Hedgehog CD, or Sonic CD for short. Now listen, I really don't like Sonic CD, but I completely understand it has a cult following. I don't know if cult following is a good way to put it. I think a better way to put it would be it has its own set of dedicated fans that think this game is great. And you know what? I'm very happy for you guys. And I'm very happy that you can enjoy something that I really can't. That goes for any piece of media that I don't enjoy. I understand that not everything's made for everyone. I think I said that earlier. And so that is my hibidabida on this case. So why don't I like Sonic CD? Well, imagine all the problems and issues I detailed about Sonic 1, but again, that's what Sonic CD's problems are. It's just it isn't really about the momentum platforming or speed. It's all about exploration. And yeah, there are exploration elements in Sonic 1 and 2. There's no doubt, and I know a lot of people do enjoy that. Again, that's why Sonic CD has its dedicated own fan base. However, that's not why I play these games. I play these games for a fun, maybe relatively speedy, interesting platforming challenges. It's just something to blow through and or maybe overcome if it's fun. Sonic CD, no. Not fun for me. There's just a lot of random ass gimmicky bullshit it throws at you, and it just feels like Sonic 1 2 instead of Sonic 2 2, if that makes any sense. I just really don't like the level design. The music, though, is really great, especially that Japanese OST. It's wonderful. There is two soundtracks for this game. There's an English soundtrack and a Japanese soundtrack. I highly recommend everyone that likes funky, bunky music to check out the Japanese soundtrack and also the English soundtrack too, if you just want some more of that delicious lemon lime goodness. This game has nothing to do with lemon lime, but it's the kind of feeling, you know? It's just the vibe. Oh yeah, and the bosses in this game is pretty much shit. I don't know why I haven't even thought to mention the bosses in the other two games, but to quickly backtrack real quick, Sonic 1 bosses is fine, I guess. Sonic 2 bosses are also fine, I guess. They kind of do their job, they have their moments, but I'm not super crazy about them. They just kind of exist to be an obstacle for you to overcome, and more often than not, you could probably do it on your first try, and if not, your second try. But they're usually not that hard, and they're just kind of a pace breaker, if anything. But they're not utterly terrible. CD's bosses are. They're just so bad. And I'm more gimmicky bullshit. And boss gimmicks are fine. In general, I think gimmicks in video games are perfectly fine as long as they're handled well. But CD's just all gimmicks and no substance, in my opinion. And that also goes for its main selling point, its main mechanic. The whole idea of Sonic CD is that you are trying to save this planet and this girl. Her name is Amy Rose. Wow. And you gotta go to the past to save the future. Yeah, there's time travel here, which is great. I mean, in general, from what I understand, older media loves to take speed as a part of time travel stories. So it kind of makes sense as like a natural evolution of Sonic going so fast that he can go to the past or future. And that's actually what is speculated the main mechanic for Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was going to be, but ultimately they didn't do that, which, you know what, that's okay. And not everything has to have a major, big, wow, gripping, stripping gimmick, but, sometimes it also is nice to have something new and pizzazzy. You kind of have to have a little bit of both. You gotta have the classic stuff, the stuff that people already like, and more of it, and refine it, and sometimes something brand new, something that captivates and is enjoyable in its own merits as well. Unfortunately, the time travel in this game fucking sucks. So, listen, again, inherently as an idea, it's not bad, but basically, to get the good ending, you have to hit a signpost that says past, go as fast as possible while these sprinkles and shimmers glide all around you while you're going fast, going through the platforming and what have you, just trying to keep up your momentum. Then you go to the past, destroy the machinery that the main bad guy, Dr. Robotnik, or more popularly known as Eggman, has set up, and then just do that a lot. Do it all the time. Do it throughout every level, if I'm not mistaken. I might get that part I just said a little wrong. I'm not super sure, but I do know you have to go to the past to destroy the machinery in order to get the good ending. Or you can access the special stages, which I'm not bothered to look into how you do that because I don't care enough. And you gotta play this really shitty pseudo 3D, messy, sloppy, the catch the UFO game. And a future game in the series, Sonic Mania, took that idea and made it way more fun and engaging and fair and just more tightly controlled and all that, which is great. But this is not Mania. This is CD, and it sucks here. It sucks ducks. I don't know what that means. I don't think I want to know what that means, but it means what it means. Cool. And those are your two options, really, if you want the good ending here to save the planet and Amy Rose. You either gotta deal with a shitty UFO minigame, special zone, or deal with trying to keep up your momentum while going past the pass sign, coincidentally enough, and going through and find the machinery. And you might say, oh, that doesn't sound so bad, but weren't you paying attention? The whole game is not revolved around momentum or keeping your momentum. It's more about meticulous gimmicks or platforming. Those two things don't bode well. Now, I will say there are points in the game that are designed for you to hit the post sign and to go fast, like maybe two springs are up against each other, you just bounce back and forth. And I'll give it that. Credit where credit is due. Sure thing. But the majority of the experience isn't made like that. It just simply isn't designed with going as fast as possible in mind inherently. It kind of felt like an afterthought. They were like, oh, let's just throw some shit in. And that doesn't fix it. Just because you have an inherent problem with your issue and you throw something that may be what basically is a band aid doesn't inherently fix its rudimentary problems with what you initially were going for, if even that. Oh, and there's not just signpost signs that just have past on it. There's also future. And you know what? It is cool to be able to go to the future as well. Hell, there's even two different versions of the future in every level. There's a bad and the good future, depending on if you fulfill the requirements in that area to get the good ending. But it really is unnecessary. I felt like they spent a lot more development time creating two different versions of the future, or just the future in general, when they could have just stuck to the past. Now, if you're in the past and being able to go to the future, like you just change the signpost from past to future, let's say there's no future signpost unless you were in the past, for example, now that makes sense. You have the present and the past. There you go. But there really is absolutely zero gameplay reason to go to the future more often than not. There are some points in the platforming where it kind of makes it easier, or you kind of like escape like an enclosed area if you go to the future, but more often than not you don't have to do that. And every single iteration of time in this game is designed that in 9 times out of 10 cases you can beat it no matter where you are in time, past, present, future, good or bad, doesn't matter. So they really could have just redesigned it so, okay, there is no point where you can get stuck at all during the past or the present, and the design is a bit more movement friendly, but still has platforming challenges that make sense for Sonic's moveset, and possibly make the special zones that again aren't inherently required but is an option a bit better to play. I feel like if they had not as many resources taken out in the development of this game to make the good and bad feature to focus on two times, you know, and I feel like the game would be way better. And it's okay for it to want to be more platform gimmick heavy, but you can also still incorporate speed into it as well. Um, I don't know. There could be a lot done to fix this game, quote unquote, but again, people love it as is, and I'm happy for them. It just isn't an experience that I inherently like, and there's just so many flaws that I don't like playing this game. I've only played through this game from beginning to end one time, and I didn't really like it. I've played this game a couple of other times throughout the years, just kind of pick it up, but after a little while, I'm like, I don't like it. And I'm not even going from 100%. It's just inherently, it is Sonic 1, but worse to me. And I barely am able to get through the grunge and the crunch with Sonic 1 to enjoy it. It's mostly the music, to be honest. And even though Sonic CD's OST is delightful and lovely, it's not enough for me to want to play through it. Although I do like to listen to the music every once and again, and man, it's so good. I'm so happy it exists just to have great music or a great CD soundtrack. But enough about all this and that about those games. Let's talk about, well, what is renowned as one of the best games of all time, especially for its time, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. Yes, Knuckles. So, what makes Sonic 3 and Knuckles great, granular, fantastico even? Well, whether you believe it or not, it's the best parts about Sonic 2 and CD combined, and even more. There's just very fun, explorable, but not compromising to the momentum platforming levels. Just there's so much levels if you play Sonic 3 and Knuckles together, since if you didn't know, the development for this game got slashed in slashed in half because a McDonald's cross promotion kind of thing. So they had to just drop the first half of Sonic 3 as its own game. Then they just finished the rest and then made a and Knuckles expansion. You put the two together, well, bingo, what bango? You got the definitive experience for Sonic 3. And this other guy named Knuckles. So he likes grapes, I guess. Okay, I'll properly talk about Knuckles in a bit here. But for now, I just want to focus on how beautiful this game is. Even for a 16-bit console, I'm so impressed how much content and stuff this game just has and is. And it's just great and delightful, and I love it a lot. I really can't put to words how fun it really is compared to all the other three games that we just talked about here. It is just so good. It's not perfect. Again, no game is perfect. But, oh man, this is just a really, really fun ride from beginning to end. And hey, Sonic and Tails, such an iconic duo. Seeing them just kind of go around, jump around together is great fun. And of course, Knuckles is playable. He has a slightly different campaign, not super duper different, but he jumps lower and he can glide and cling onto walls and climb up walls, and that's very fun. And since these levels still have that Sonic CD exploration philosophy in mind, that's not hindering to the overall gameplay as like it was back in that game. Being able to climb up walls and find secrets and even the special zones like that is quite fun. It's quite great to do so. Yes, the secret stages or secret zones, whatever you want to call them, whatever they're called really, are just hidden along the worlds, the levels. There's two per every level. In the first half of the game, you gotta beat 7 of them in order to be able to unlock the first requirement. In the second half of the game, the Knuckles part, if you will, you gotta beat 7 more additional stages of your choosing. You get to choose, kind of. You never really know until you get in there, but the option is nice. And then bam, you just gotta go through all of them. What is it exactly? Well, basically, you gotta touch a lot of blue balls here. Sonic, Tails, and/or Knuckles. You go on this pseudo 3D plane, but this time it's really fun and easy to control. And you gotta touch the blue spheres, and you gotta make them all red. If you touch any red spheres, then you get booted out. And I like that a lot. It's simple and easy to learn, and in the second half of the blue spheres, if you fulfill the requirements of getting all seven Chaos Emeralds in the first half of the game, then just naturally through its level design, it teaches you advanced techniques. Like if how do I want to explain it? There's this one segment where you're pushed along forward, and you basically force to take a turn, and then you make a circle, kind of like you collect all the outer blue spheres in this small segment. I think at the beginning of one of these, the second half of the blue sphere segments in the game. I'm sorry, I'm explaining this really bad, but I'm trying to figure out how I want to put it together. Basically, the game naturally shows you kind of like advanced tips through natural gameplay, relatively speaking. And although there's not like so much to master, it's just nice to see. What also makes this fun is that the top down perspective, even the original releases, gives you a decent view of what's ahead, and it slowly gets faster along with the music. So even if it's easy when it starts out, which it is fairly easy once you definitely get used to it, playing the game, 2, 3, 4 times or more if you're a insane person like me, the level eventually speeding up is makes it challenging for everyone. And it's not so fast, like right out the gate, like super duper going fast, very fast, like to an uncontrollable degree. I always feel like I'm in control, and it's gradual enough to be like, whoa, that's quite fast, but also keep me in control. It's the perfect amount of speeding up and still letting me have that precise precision and control that it just is work and exhilarating and honestly pumps my adrenaline up. I don't know how I forgot to mention. I just things just escape me very easily. Trust me. Just I'm always a mess whenever I talk about anything. But Sonic 2, if you get all the Chaos Emeralds at any point in the game, you get all seven of them for being in special stages, then you can become Super Sonic once you get 50 rings or more, and then jump once, and then press the jump button again in the air, which basically makes you faster, relatively invincible to enemies, although you can still get crushed and die in pits and that kind of stuff. In Sonic 3 and Knuckles, in the first half of the game, if you get the 7 Chaos Emeralds, then you can also be Super Sonic for the first half. For the second half, you do lose Super Sonic, but if you do the second round of the Blue Spheres, the special stages, then you get Hyper Sonic. He's basically Super Sonic, but he can go pew. He can go even faster and get a nice, just I don't know how to put it. You go faster in like kind of a pseudo double jump kind of deal here, where it shoots you forward. It's great, and also is the requirement for the good ending. And again, I'm not crazy about good endings, but since I love Blue Spheres so much, I don't mind getting the good ending. It's nice and it's very climactic, and it's probably the best good ending in out of all the games because the pure gameplay element of it is fun. It's not just you have all the Chaos Emeralds, okay, or the Time Stones, which was the collectible and CD. Oh, great. Wow, whatever. Celebrate different cinematic or what have you. This time there is actual gameplay applications for that, and that is fun. Along with the lovely gameplay, it's just very fun and exhilarating experience overall. The bosses are actually good. Dr. Robotnik actually cooked, whipped up a mean meal. Wow, it is really, really fun. Some of the bosses are kind of like, it's okay, again. But some of them are genuinely really fun, or just genuinely feel like a challenge, but not too difficult where it feels like bullshit. It it's nice. It's way better, and overall, it really felt like they take their time and put their nose to the grindstone to design and develop this game as lovely as possible. And that's what I always love to see, whether it's from a AAA company or an indie studio or just a couple of guys making a game. I always love seeing just pure passion come through, and it's definitely a passion project. This one, Sonic 3, Knuckles, them, him, Gem. And on top of all that, there are these brand new elemental shields. So, in the first three Sonic games, 1, 2, CD, there were just these general shields. If you get hit, then the shield goes away. Simple. No, I didn't figure to mention it since it wasn't a big deal. It was just kind of there. However, oh, dilly. Oh, dilly. So now these shields have elemental powers. There's a fire one, an electricity one, and a water one, a bubble shield. So the fire shield, I don't know if that's actually what it's properly called. Maybe it's called flame shield, something similar to that. But the fire one lets you go forward if you press jump in the air. It lets you just shoot forward, kind of like hypersonic actually. The bubble shield lets you breathe underwater and also lets you bounce up higher, so you go back down and you can bounce up. It's not like it doesn't keep going infinitely up, but it does give you more higher air. I forgot to mention the fire shield completely negates any fire damage to you, which is awesome. You love to see gameplay applications in very creative and fun ways. And the electric shield lets you double jump. So now we have a proper double jump in this game, which definitely comes in handy if you're trying to go really fast and maybe you miss a jump. Just bloop up and maybe you'll make it. Hopefully. Overall, I'm always impressed when consoles are pushed to the limit in the sense that developers and designers and what have you make a game that works amazingly, flawlessly, and it really is a wonderful product of its time. Even 8-bit consoles are able to have wonderful masterpieces like Super Mario Bros. 3 or Link's Awakening. And I really feel like I am the 16-bit era. Sonic 3 and Knuckles is just one of the most beautiful, one of the most delightful and impressive games for that time. I genuinely am so impressed every time I play it because it really blows my mind. Like, don't get me wrong, it's kind of direct competitor. I guess Super Mario World. I don't know if that came out when this. I don't know the exact time, but let's say since it's also a 16-bit game, Super Mario World is a direct competitor, right? Super Mario World is great. It's a good game. It's fun. It's great, and I like it a lot. But I don't know. It does a lot and does push what 16-bit hardware can do. I just feel like overall, I kind of am more impressed by Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles because it just constantly keeps throwing at you interesting and fun and innovative gameplay, even though it's still relatively way shorter than Mario World. They're both are really impressive for its time. I just think that S3 and K is wowie, zahowie. Yeah, fuck you, Mario. Now Sonic can say it. He. But seriously, I just find myself just drilling over how fun the game is, and yeah, it's definitely a wonderful thing. But let's stop sucking off that game. I definitely have its infinite amount of praise for many things, everywhere, for all of time. We get it. Shut up. I understand. Let's talk about, well, what's next here? Sonic Adventure 1. And you know what? I actually really love Sonic Adventure 1. Right off the gimme go, I just want to say Sonic Adventure 1, or I would just say Sonic Adventure plainly going forward, is one of my favorite 3D platformers. I've thought about it back and forth, and you know what? Yeah, simply put, I thought it is great. And I had a very, very wonderful time playing it. Um, Sonic 1 through 3, I played back when I was a little baby on the DS. There was um, a compilation game for it. CD wasn't included because it was already hard to squeeze Sonic 1, 2, and 3 and Knuckles apparently onto the DS, so they didn't even want to bother with CD, which I guess that makes sense. But so I had kind of the nostalgia there a little bit, even though I played mostly Sonic Rush when I was little, because it was just, in my opinion, a more fun game with the boost mechanic. Wow, I can feel myself dying because of that one. But listen, the hot takes haven't even begun. All right, trust me. So With Sonic Adventure, I've only got to experience it for the first time last year. And to be fair, I played it on PC. I got the Steam version and I modded it so it had a widescreen support and the visuals looked like its Dreamcast original. Because the game got a port onto the GameCube and then eventually a PC where they redid the models and just the environments and etc. And I don't really like how the updated look looks. Like everything just feels plasticky and just not good. The original look on the Dreamcast was very charming to me and I loved it a lot. So I decided to modify the game just so it could look and sound better. Also, with a higher frame rate, all that nerd stuff to just make it look and feel better without inherently modifying the core experience. I didn't modify the gameplay. I didn't change any of the values in. I didn't hack at all. All I did was just make it look prettier and make it run smoother. I didn't want to modify or anything else beyond that because I feel like that wouldn't be a good way to play a game. I wasn't initially playing Sonic Adventure or any Sonic game for that matter just to review it up until this point. I just play games and their primarily intended way may be a little bit better if modifying is possible and easy enough for me to understand simply because I want to play games in kind of their intended and if possible original way unless they're it's completely bullshit and then in that case I would maybe heavily consider uh maybe save stating as terms of cheating. But even so, just to give you an idea, I've played a lot of classic Mega Man games throughout the past couple of years, and I have almost absolutely never cheated in terms of abusing save states for that game. There was only one time that I did, and I just felt like it was saving time more than anything. I definitely it was just there is a little bit of a time in the game where you have to go from point A to point B, then point B is a boss rush. I just cut out the point A to point B. I didn't want to deal with that and I think there was enemies and then I could have got hurt, but from what from where I loaded from my save state, I had a little bit of damage anyway from going through that. It was just to save time. I just didn't want to bother with that. But anyway, enough about that blue guy. Let's talk about this other blue guy that we've been talking about. So, Sonic Adventure 1 is, in my opinion, a very great platformer. I think it honestly rivals Mario 64 as a 3D adventure. I don't think it's necessarily inherently better than Mario 64. I'm just saying I could see these two primarily, like actually butting heads. And I mean, that's pretty much what it was. A lot of people nowadays say that Sonic Adventure is a bit outdated and it's very clunky and it has a lot of issues and that is very correct. But at the same time, despite its voice direction being really awkward and honestly bad and some things in the game just not working properly like in the modern ports of well I say modern but and the easiest most readily available way to play the game on Steam it does have its fair share of issues that you could mod out, but still, if you want to play the game right out the box and you have no experience with modifying games, it does suck. And some issues do are apparent. Do are apparent? Yes, sure, they are apparent, and they could really hinder your experience. But if you understand going into the game with that there's flaws, but also there is value to it to an extent, like I did, I think you would enjoy it a lot. If you enjoy 3D platformers, of course. So, overall, the game is you play a good chunk of it as Sonic the Hedgehog, now in a 3D space. He has basically all of his move sets from Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and you just kind of go around level to level, kind of blasting through. It's still momentum based, which is fun. It doesn't do anything too crazy or granular, but it's just fun to spin your way through the levels, jump around, and this game introduces Sonic's infamous homing attack. So you press jump, and if you're nearby an enemy, you're pressing the stick in a general direction of the enemy, and you press the jump button again, then you home in and attack them. And there's other mechanics too that I'm not going to get too into in depth about because I don't feel like it's necessary for me to really talk about the general experiences. I just think the game is super duper charming and it's very lovely. And even though it is decently short, it's kind of just a nice ride. It's definitely a nice ride from beginning to end, and there is lots of replay value. There's different missions that you could do if you want to replay levels. So it's not like, oh, I blasted through this game and let's do it again. There's actually new stuff to do, whether you play the Dreamcast original or the modern, well, more modern-ish versions of the game. It's not all fantastic, but I really think it's endearing. Also, we got to play as Sonic's companions once again. So there's a whole campaign segments about Tails. There's whole campaign segments about Knuckles. The two of them play very similar to their 2D outing. I didn't mention before, but Tails can fly with his tails. So, being able to fly around a little bit in 3D is very, very fun. His levels primarily focus on beating Sonic in races in, I believe, a majority, if not all, of the Sonic levels. So, at least it's a kind of a different take on, oh, just running through. I mean, it's super easy, to be honest. I mean, there might be a moment or two where it is actually fairly, difficult, but it's nothing too crazy. It's not something that's supposed to inherently be challenging. It's more of a, hey, just beat him, beat the fastest guy alive, because apparently you're faster than him. It's more of like a little charming thing. It's just nice to go through these levels again or see the differences as Tails, and they're definitely structured more linear as Tails, but I don't know. I kind of like it like that. It's a fun way to play, or I should say, replay levels that you've gone through already. If you played through the entirety of the Sonic route, then do the Tails route. Even so, Tails has a different ending boss fight, and his whole story arc is about, oh, I gotta believe in myself and I gotta do things on my own too. And I really appreciate that, and I really like that about this character arc. I think it's lovely and it's simple but fun and adequate. In general, the story is Dr. Robotnik slash Eggman. He he's powering up this godlike deity called Chaos, and he's using the Chaos Emeralds to do so. And over the course of time, this creature Chaos gets stronger and stronger, and you gotta beat him up in the Sonic story, and this and that. And then at the very end, you Sonic powers up with the Chaos Emeralds and is Super Sonic. Instead of like being able to unlock that and play a Super Sonic on all the other Sonic levels, it's just stuck to this semi-cinematic but playable finale to the game, which is bombastic, fun music. And you know what? It might be a bit clunky in terms of controls, but I enjoyed quite a bit. I think the music is very fun, very great. Crush 40 always crushes it. Definitely always energetic and great time to hear their music, just blaring while you're beating some kind of god or mythical creature's ass. It's always a great time. And despite its imperfections, the ending is quite charming and lovely. Along the story, you also get to learn about this echidna girl named Takal and what her relationship and her tribe with a B. Come on, Arie, you can do this. uh, has to relate to chaos, which is very interesting. I'm not gonna get too much into it. Maybe there's somebody out there that wants to experience for the first time. I'm sorry. Here, you know what? Let's be nice. Let's put a spoiler warning for every Sonic game going forward. I assume the 2D classic games everybody pretty much knows about or doesn't really care about knowing the story of because they're simple. But if you want to know the story of Sonic Adventure or you wanted to go into a blind and I just blasted you with spoilers, I'm so sorry. I usually am super spoiler sensitive, but I just kind of think it's not really the super most important thing about Sonic Adventure. It's nice and charming despite its weird voice acting, but apologies, sincerely. Aside from that, you also get to play as a few new characters here. Well, new, quote unquote, for this next one here. Amy Rose, introduced in Sonic CD, as I mentioned very briefly. her whole thing is that she has a hammer. She's dearly in love with Sonic and has been for many, many years up until the last mainline game. Or I guess the last mainline game. I forgot Superstars came out, honestly. Let's just say Sonic Frontiers. She pretty much like completely stopped and changed personalities because I guess the writers were like, "Hey, that's kind of getting old." But for a very very long time, Amy Rose's personality was, "I dearly love Sonic with all my hedgehog heart, heart." And that's just kind of how it was for a long time. But in terms of gameplay, Amy Rose is okay. I like the fact that you can get up higher, get like some nice airtime when you slam her hammer on the ground, because while you're moving and you press the attack button, then she flings herself up, and I think that's a pretty cool idea. She's constantly escaping from this robot that's catching her, so you just have to be faster. Very similar to Tails, being faster than Sonic. It's not inherently hard, but there are some times where I almost got caught, and I think I actually died to that once because I was being really stupid. That's not the game's fault. That's just me being silly, to my memory. So again, not the hardest thing in the world, but it's just nice and it's a little bit different to all the other campaigns. Knuckles, actually, I want to come back to before talking about the other two. Knuckles isn't just all the same levels again, but this time you can glide and climb. You actually have to find pieces of different things across these more explorative levels, and the radar for it, since there's a radar built into the menu, the UI, I should say specifically, is pretty nice. It's pretty good, and it overall just works and functions pretty well. I'm not crazy about it. I'm not a big fan, but it also is kind of like over before it's really just takes fuck. It's over before you know it. That's what I'm trying to say. Dear God, words. Oh, so um, it's not really that bad. It's not super long, but it's fine. It's perfectly good. In fact, all the different campaigns you can do, you can basically do them at any time. So if you're feeling a little sick of playing as Amy Rose or Big the Cat, which we'll get to in a second, you can just hop onto Knuckles, Tails, or Sonic, and you unlock different campaigns as you go along, and then whatever character gets introduced to another character, and then it just kind of happens. And I like that. That's a very nice variety type thing. Usually, I just go through them each as they are represented in the roster, going left from right. You have to start with Sonic, then you unlock Tails' route, then Knuckles, etc. And I just kind of go through like, let's start and then finish, and then that's pretty much how I play the game. That's how I prefer it, but the option is there, and I appreciate having options. That's always really, really good. All right, let's talk about Big the Cat now. A lot of people do not like Big the Cat. His whole thing in this game, or just in general, is fishing. You just, cast his rod and fish. And you know what? Fishing in games is cool. I actually have never played a game that is solely dedicated to fishing, but anytime there's any sort of fishing in video games, I really, really like it. Um, Big the Cat, in this case, you throw the rod and you have to kind of want the fish or whatever you're trying to catch, like tantalize them by moving the rod back and forth a little bit. Then when it's caught, you gotta just kind of reel it in with the joystick, I believe. It's been a while since I've played the Big the Cat section of this game, so forgive me if I'm getting it wrong. But in any case, you have to reel it in, and then that's it. It's not that hard, but apparently people don't like to fish, and they really hate it. Even though it's super simple, and this entire campaign could last under a half hour, it is a big pace breaker, but it's not that bad, guys. Um, but I totally get it. You're here for platforming fun, but to be fair, I kind of see it as a nice pace breaker for me. Usually, I don't like that kind of thing in games, but I mean, it's just short and just kind of there. I think the game would definitely be better without it, or if it was an optional mini game that every campaign could play for different material, well, not materials. What am I talking about? For like maybe like temporary power ups or rings or whatever, or for the Chow Garden, which I'll come back around to eventually. Uh, I think that's what they should have done. And hey, they pretty much had the idea later on for Sonic Frontiers, so that's great. But here in this game, as is, I don't think it's that bad, but it's if you're playing the game from left to right like I do, it's literally the last thing you have to do before you get that very cinematic, cool, supersonic boss fight that I mentioned prior. So, ah, it's not terrible, but I get why people don't like it, especially Aaron Hansen. Well, fuck that guy anyway. I don't like him. In any case, there's one other guy, E-102 Gamma, or just Gamma for short. I like this guy. He's a bit different. He shoots. He's a giant robot guy, not an animal. Not he doesn't really breathe like you and I, but he's a robot guy, a robot guy. So his whole story is that inside him, like what makes Gamma work, is he is an animal that became uh what a botnik, I think they're called. In any case, it's just a robot guy that has a bird in him that powers the robot, which is just a normal thing, by the way. All the enemies are mechanical robots, and you jump on them or destroy them somehow to set the animals free. You know, like animal slavery. Average video game antagonist. Oh well. Gamma's whole premise and story is let's go through here, go through this level, shoot stuff around, and also, I guess, kill my brother in because Dr. Robotnik slash Eggman wants us to fight each other. And then they also befriend Amy Rose sometime throughout their story, and they help each other. And eventually also help Sonic and Tails as well. So everything ties together in a relatively neat way. Nothing too great or grand or fantastical up until the end. Again, finale is pretty sweet, pretty nice. It's it's fun, and it just overall, it's a pretty solid game, and I like it a lot. It definitely isn't one of the best games ever, even objectively looking at it. It has so many flaws. It just can't, and I probably never will be considered that. But in my own subjective, nasty, schmasty taste, it's pretty fun. I really like it. And who knows, maybe I'll replay through it sometime in the near future. I replayed through a couple of the Sonic levels, like that begin the game very recently, just because I kind of had the feeling for it just a little bit. And yeah, I had a great time, and it's also kind of what inspired me to do this episode in the first place. So, thanks, Sonic Adventure Juan. Before I move on to Sonic Adventure 2, I think this in between section will be a good place to talk about the Chow Garden, which is a feature, or I should say, a whole part of the game that is featured in both games. They are different, they have their differences between versions and games in general. I just want to talk about it overall because I have the same experience with it overall. I don't like it. Okay, so now that everybody wants to kill me, let me explain myself. So, if you don't know what the Chow Garden is, it pretty much is this like baby daycare place where you get to rise. You get to rise. No, you get to raise your own Chow, which is a little baby-like creature, and you get to play around with them, give them animals, make them more powerful. Just change out their body parts with animal parts. Very normal. You know, just kind of have them, play with them, and you can also put them into competitions, like a very, I how, like evil, like an evil parent. That's what I'm trying to say. Like a very evil, like soccer mom that just wants their kids to win and get all the trophies and don't care about their emotional stability at all. Parenting, it's real. I swear. In any case, I don't like any of it. I don't care about the Chow. I don't care about the garden. I don't care about the competitions. I don't care about any of that. I understand. A lot of people like it. A lot of people like this being their pace breaker throughout the entire game, just like how I enjoy Big the Cat for what it is. Not necessary in terms of why it should be there, but it's just nice to have. People love to have the Chow Garden. It's something to come back to, something to work on, something to improve. But for me, I don't like that kind of thing. I don't really like simulators like that. I never understand the appeal. I just can't get it. A lot about it is just kind of obscure, and you just kind of have to figure out on your own. Well, I think there is an NPC or two that does tell you many tips and tricks of how to do what you want to do, but even then, I don't know, man. I just couldn't care less about this. And I am actually very interested for somebody to explain to me why this is adored. I want somebody who is a humongous fan, maybe even the ambassador of the Chow Garden community, to come down, descend down the trickly schmickly stairs, and tell me to my petite face why the Chow Garden is cool. I genuinely want to know. Even if you're not the ambassador of the Chow Garden Club, just let me know. If you care about it at all, let me know what the fuck is appeal. Because I really don't get it. I just see it as a distraction. Oh, throw some babies around. That's it. Oh no. Oh, no, I'm gonna keep that in there. That's funny. But like Sonic CD, even though I don't like it, I'm happy that other people do. And yeah, just keep it away from me. Unless you're telling me why it's so great. Or your Cyber Shell. And if you're Cyber Shell, I would love to talk to you. I love Cyber Shell. For people who don't know who Cyber Shell is, relatively somewhat niche micro celebrity, very popular for Sonic videos, whether it be Let's Plays or more essay like. Also does other stuff too. He made a Mario RPG video earlier this year, which was awesome. I love that. So I don't know. If you're like Cyber Shell or something, hit me up because you're awesome, and I have all nothing but the respect for you in the whole world. All right, enough about me being a shill. Let's talk about Sonic Adventure 2 now. I don't like Sonic Adventure 2. I think it's a horrible game. I'm not saying this to be edgy. I'm not saying this to be contrarian. I'm not saying this to be evil. I'm not saying this to hurt your feelings. I genuinely think Sonic Adventure 2 is a bad, horrible game. But it has its redeeming qualities. Alright, now that everybody actually wants to kill me for real and my head's on a spike, let's talk about it a little bit. So, why don't I like Sonic Adventure 2? Is it the story? No, actually, I think the story's fun, and I think it's really cool. It has its very dramatic moments, but I think it's justified, and I really like the ending too. I don't really feel like talking about story specifics. I don't really want to talk about Sonic Adventure 2 too long, but either way, yeah, the story's fun. It's great, and the voice acting's actually competent this time, so that's also great. But man, what really, really kills it for me is the gameplay. Now, I'll say this: the Sonic and Shadow levels or zones, or however you want to call them, in this game are amazing. Some of the best 3D platforming I've probably ever played, especially in a Sonic series. An A Sonic series and the Sonic series, actually. The Hedgehog. D! D's the rank I get a lot. In any case, uh, I really love the Sonic and Shadow levels. They're not always great. Some of them are a little stinky, just for me personally, but overall, I think they're good fun. They're wonderful. City Escape, beautiful. This and that, I literally don't remember any of the other level names, but they're all great. And hey, the final level as well, with everyone coming together doing their own thing, that is also very, very fun. One of the most funnest levels I played of any game. So then why did I like this game? It's because of everything else. The Knuckles and the Rouge levels. Rouge is a bat. You know, she's like a gold digger, double agent kind of gal. Getting back to the point here, the Knuckles and Rouge treasure finding levels, or whatever they're trying to find, really, they're very akin to the Knuckle levels in Sonic Adventure 1. The thing about this, though, is that this one sucks a lot for both of their sides ends. So, the radar is really shit now, and the levels are bigger than before. If the radar was relatively the same or even better accommodating for the bigger levels, then yeah, maybe it would be better. Maybe it would be more easier to digest. And I mean, it probably would be over just as fast as the Knuckles campaign is an Adventure 1, but still, I mean, it would have been just like, okay, this is a nice distraction, as opposed to, where the fuck am I going? Ah! Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel for most of these levels here. Just, there's so many times where I have no idea where to go, and then the hints they just don't help me at all. And looking up guides don't help because the different locations change at every single playthrough or every time you try to level. And then there's just times where the mechanics just straight up don't work, and it's just annoying and frustrating. And I genuinely am very frustrated just talking about it, just thinking about it. It makes me so upset. It makes me so. So, yeah, it's bad. It's just bad. It's poorly designed, and it's not good at all. Even if you mod in the Sonic Adventure 1 radar, it doesn't really fix it because you're just modifying the game to fix a problem that's inherently there within the game, you know? And I get, I kind of did that with Sonic Adventure 1, but it's not like I fixed any of its major issues. I just made it look better. And the graphics weren't a huge issue. I could have played it, in 4:3 aspect ratio. I could have played it with the DX greasy ass looking graphics. That was fine. It was just more of an aesthetic change. That's what's different here. So it's just that is really rough and it's really frustrating. And just thinking about it makes me upset. But the other type of level also was not fun at all for me. So Tails and Eggman here, they're playable again, but instead of Tails being able to fly around, like with Sonic Adventure 1, now he's in a mech because he's a nerd guy, and that makes sense. He has a track record of inventing stuff and tinkering with machinery. It tracks. That's okay. Things can be different. I'm okay with that. But the mech levels are slow, boring, monotonous. They don't feel fun. You're just kind of trudging along and just there are times where they feel pretty fun to kind of jump around and just do that, but it's really just a slower and sometimes just monogamous mayonnaise fest compared to the speed and fun action and precision platforming of the Sonic and Shadow levels. It just isn't fun. It's just something that's not great and I don't really care about. So basically, what I'm saying is roughly 2/3 of the game is awful, and I only like 1/3 of it, which ultimately makes that 1/3 really replayable. That's pretty much what I just do. I just play Sonic and Shadow levels whenever I want that Adventure 2 sweetness. And yeah, they're some of the most replayable levels of any game I've ever played, and I'm so glad that I can just cherry pick them once the game is over and just play them whenever I feel like it, because those are genuinely great designed levels, all in all, in general. But the rest of the game as a whole isn't fun for me, so it's kind of hard to really decide how I feel about this game, because I've put way, 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 way more hours into Adventure 2 than Adventure 1 because of replaying the Sonic and Shadow levels, but also in a general, like, linear experience, I don't like it. Most of the game is trash to me. And also the Char Garden is back. The Chow Garden. I don't want the Chow Garden. Now get the Chow out of here. Oh, baby ass. So, basically, it's just hard to really say. I feel like Adventure 2 is infinitely more playable in terms of wanting to play levels more and more and more. But Adventure 1 has the better overall experience when it comes to quality from across the board, beginning to end. It's just, it's really hard. I definitely understand why people prefer Adventure 2. And there are some days where I say, you know what? I just want to play Adventure 2 for a couple hours. But overall, I think I prefer Adventure 1. If I were to have to replay through the entire game from beginning to end for whatever reason, like I'm held at gunpoint for some reason, I would play Adventure 1 over Adventure 2, and I would probably do it in under 12 hours too. So, sorry, my opinion sucks. Boo-hoo, oh well. I will briefly say though, before I'm going on to Sonic Heroes, the ending of Adventure 2 is very fun. I pretty much think of it the exact same way as Adventure 1, although the story is way better up to that point. Looking exclusively at the finales, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, except now there's two hedgehogs that go super. And, that's cool. That's nice. So, I think overall, Sonic Adventure 2, in terms of story, takes the cake here. Everything else, besides replayability, or whatever, they have their strengths and cons. They have their moments where one is better than the other. They balance each other out, and I think that's better than nothing, really. Now, that aside, we have Sonic Heroes. Ah, yeah. Alright, so what makes Sonic Heroes great? Its intro song. Its intro song is amazing. And also some of the other music's cool too. Alright, that's about it. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so all in all, I like the idea and gimmick, or I should say, general thing, selling point, the good sugar that you do for Sonic Heroes here. Uh, I enjoyed the idea of you have the speed one, you have the yellow. Well, what the fuck is it? The speed, power, and flight? I think. Basically, the whole idea is trios and they're heroes. Sometimes, I guess, maybe. And yeah, you pretty much just play through the same level 4 times with 4 different teams, and it's not the greatest game. It's very annoying if you want to complete the game. Just you have to basically play through the game 4 times. One of those times is super easy. Two of those times are relatively the same difficulty. And that's to say it's relatively easy, but it has their moments of difficulty, which I appreciate. And the other time is just sometimes it's very very short levels, and other times it's really long and annoying and barely works and doesn't really tell you what to do. It is very vague. It is very stressful. Overall, I feel like Sonic Heroes had a very good and very granular idea of what it wanted to be. It wanted to be something great, the next big, wonderful, grandiose Sonic adventure following Adventure 2. It just falls flat. It just doesn't feel right. And it's not a bad game at all, but it's not necessarily a game I recommend to anybody unless you like 3D Sonic and you don't mind wanting to play through the same level multiple times in different campaigns in order to get the ending. And I was planning to finish Sonic Heroes since I only have to finish one more boss fight before getting to the end, but honestly, I just don't feel like it. I've played enough of the game to kind of be like, all right, that's done. And who knows? Maybe the final like 10 minutes of the game was super awesome and amazing, but I just personally don't have the energy for it, and I don't feel bad about it either because why am I gonna force myself to play a game just to review it or just to see what happens? I mean, I could even like look it up online to see what happens, but I just couldn't care to do that. I understand a lot of people really like this game. Again, it's not my cup of tea, but it's not a bad game either. I genuinely think it has its moments and it's pretty solid. It's just, it's okay. Not a game I'm gonna come back to anytime soon. Not for a great, great while. All right, let's take a break from talking about 3D Sonic games and focus on the Advanced series. Just kidding, I never played any of these games, but I do plan to play them um, sometime in the near future. I'm kind of burnt out on Sonic because I played a lot of Sonic games the past few years. Playing Adventure 1 and 2 for the first time. Uh, Frontiers came out. I played so much Mania in the past 6 months. It's not even real. So I'm burnt out on Sonic. I need other stuff, and I have been playing and watching and just experiencing other types of media outside of the blue blurs, well, greasy grappers could grapple to. But for now, it's okay. And I genuinely think the Advanced series looks fun. Barely looking into it, I know nothing about it, to be fair, but I would love to talk about the trilogy sometime. I just actually got to play through it, so who knows? Maybe I'll play the first game I think is garbage, or maybe I'll play all three of them in a weekend and be like, oh yeah, I'll play them, or at least one of them, let you know if I feel like it, or maybe not. Who knows? But I do want to play them eventually, at least the first advanced game. On the topic of 2D games, I might as well talk about Sonic Rush. I brought this up earlier, I believe, and yeah, I think Sonic Rush is a good time. And I don't remember so much about it. I played it when I was fairly young, and I did play a lot of it. I replayed it a lot, but I don't know. I feel like I should play it again before saying anything because I feel bad whenever I feel like I don't know if I'm getting this information right or wrong. And sometimes it is silly, and I can see people enjoying me being uncertain or getting things wrong. since I'm not trying to be an objective piece of critiquing. It's just me kind of blabbing on about how I feel. I get that, but still, I want to know mostly what I'm on about because I don't want to just sound like I'm spouting out bullshit only. I want just 5% of truth and 95% of what the fuck is going on. But I remember really, really, really enjoying both the Sonic and Blaze the Cat campaigns in Sonic Rush. Uh, in any other case, I have not played Sonic Rush Adventure. I heard it's good, but has its flaws, primarily going from level to level. I don't know a lot about that, but that is definitely a game I do want to play in the future as well, because I've always been interested about it, and I've never heard about it until earlier this year. So, oh, who knows? A sequel to a game that I loved so much in my childhood exists, and it's out there, and I could play it right now, and I never heard of it until recently. It's crazy, absolutely nuts. Oh, and Sonic Colors DS is apparently spiritual, like Rush 3 has the same kind of Rush formula. I think it's made by the same developers, same models and kind of stuff. Also on the DS, of course. So, yeah, that's also a game I want to play as well because I heard it's genuinely good in its own right. So, hey, that's another game I didn't know existed, out there. I was aware of the original Sonic Colors. I rented it like one time, and then I got grounded, so I couldn't play the game. I played like only one level, and then I wasn't able to play my Wii for like 4 months, and I had to like send it back to the library. Where I live, you can rent games from the library. I heard that apparently it's not a normal thing across the world, which I guess would make sense, but still, uh, that's my whole history with Sonic Colors. No, I'm kidding. I actually played through the rest of it sometime in the future, but we're not there yet. Uh, so Advanced Trilogy, at least the first game I want to play through. Sonic Rush, I love, but that might just be nostalgia. It might actually be garbage, but I kind of doubt it because I hear people really, really love it nowadays. And then Rush Adventure, Colors DS, haven't touched yet, but very interested. All right, let's start rocking and rolling, guys. Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. I never played this one. Moving on. So Sonic and the Secret Rings. I played this a lot growing up, and I. Okay, fine. I'll talk about Sonic 06. So I actually never played this one, and I don't really have a reason to play it. I know how infamous it is. I know how just you know. I know how it is. If for people who have no idea what I'm talking about, Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 is a glitchy, buggy, poorly made video game that had what seems to be a lot of heart into it, just not enough time into it. I feel like if the game had another year and a half in the oven, or even just another 6 months, it could be way better. Not great, but it could be better. Listen, I'm just happy it exists because we have funny moments that come from it, and of course we have funny fan dubs or memes or whatever, and of course the music. Oh, the music is so good. Oh, so if there's anything good that came out of it, is everything else but the game itself. So thank you, Sonic 06. Very cool. That's pretty much my history with Sonic 06. It's a game that exists, and I don't want to play or I don't care about playing. If you want me to play it and talk about it on the show, let me know. That pretty much goes for any game or piece of media. Like, if you really want me to talk about it, if you have a burning passion for me to just spill my guts about something I've never really experienced or never even consider experiencing, like Harry Potter, for example, you gotta tell me. You gotta be like, Arie! Ah! Exactly, just like that. Just like that. You have to do it just like that, or else I won't listen. Okay, so uh Sonic and the Secret Rings. I grew up with this game. This was probably my first Sonic game. I shit you not. This was at yeah. This was my first Sonic game. So, how did I enjoy my first Sonic game? It was okay. If I were to play it nowadays, I'd say this is a piece of shit because basically you play a Sonic, no other friends, and it's motion controlled, which means you have to play with a controller that you move the character with motion, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing. If it was like, oh, you're using your tool or whatever in a game or trying to do precise precision, let's say like in a shooter, you're trying to like do something and you want that precise precision, then having that motion control while you're shooting or whatever else you're doing in a game, it's nice for precision. It's like emulating what a mouse could do, except without having to bust out a whole mouse and keyboard setup for your console. It's really nice, and I really appreciate motion controls. But not for this game, because you only move Sonic by moving the Wii remote back and forth, sideways. You can't use the directional pad or anything. That's just how you move this motherfucker. You gotta raise it up and down to make him jump. I remember that very vividly. I remember like developing almost carpal tunnel because of this fucking game. It's not good. It's just not fun. The music's bland, in my opinion. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe the music's actually pretty good. But I didn't really like the music when I was little. I didn't like the way it played. I didn't like anything. Except for the semi-cinematic bits. Like, there's some parts in some levels where it looked pretty cool and the camera was dynamic. And also just the way that Sonic is introduced at every level. Camera kind of goes close to him and it's kind of cool and like a music video almost just kind of feel when the camera shifts around. That's the only part I like it. The flashy cinematics during levels or the beginning of levels or whatever. Everything else, this is a game I wish I never played, but kind of glad I played because if it wasn't for that, then I wouldn't be introduced to Sonic the Hedgehog, and I'm glad it didn't turn me off to Sonic because I don't know, just something about it. Even though I didn't like the gameplay, I guess I just kind of like the character design, and I just like the idea of this fast rodent guy. So we really have secret rings to thank for me becoming a Sonic fan now. I'm not the craziest Sonic fan. No, I don't think I'm ever going to be a big figure in the community in any sense at all. But I do have opinions, and I've played a lot of the games, so I think it's fair to call me a fan. I clearly have lots of harsh, strong opinions, so. In any case, Sonic Unleashed, I played only on the Wii. God damn it. So, for those not in the know, there is two, count them, two different versions overall with Sonic Unleashed. There is the Xbox 360 slash PlayStation 3 version, which is well, actually, maybe it's more like three because the PlayStation 3 version I think is missing some stuff from the Xbox 360 version. Okay, all right. Let me just say it like this: the Xbox 360 version, maybe the PlayStation 3 version, has everything that the game was originally intended to have. It is what is considered kind of the definitive edition to an extent, but there was another version of the game made for the PlayStation 2 and the Wii because the Wii was a humongous gamebuster seller at the time, and Sega wasn't about to like lose a lot of money on this hyped up, exciting, brand new, adventurous Sonic game. It's literally called Sonic World Adventure in Japan, which is a fucking awesome name. That I honestly wish it was called that across the world. That sounds radical as hell. Well, it kind of sends the wrong idea of what kind of game it is, but still, uh, because of the Wii doing really well and being the most popular console at the time, they decided to make a version of the game that would work on it. And then they also figured might as well also put it on the PlayStation 2 since the PlayStation 2 has a humongous install base, basically almost as big as the Wii's. And I mean, it's basically the same hardware, relatively speaking, in terms of power. So might as well. Different versions across the board, baby. Despite that, I never knew that an Xbox existed because I was stupid as a kid. So, I didn't know there was a technically, possibly superior version. But I could tell you my experience with Sonic Unleashed Wii, or it's as the community calls it, Unleashed, which is a pretty nice name, I gotta admit. Pretty clever. I really enjoyed Unleashed. I thought it's great. And just running through the daytime stages is very fun. Some of the best Sonic platforming across the series. It's very, very fun, very energetic, very just fun. A great game. Wonderful. Great music too. All right. Oh, I'm missing something? Something big and important? A werehog? What the fuck is that? So, do you like beat 'em ups? Do you like beating up a bunch of evil guys, evil darkness guys, and it's like super boring, and it takes forever, and you have to go slow as possible, and you have to hear the same repetitive music over and over again every time you fight a guy? But at least you have some interesting platforming. That's pretty much the second half of this game. Half of the game, you're running around traditional Sonic stuff, but this time you have a boost button because getting rings make you able to go super fast. Apparently, uh, just like Sonic Rush, there's you just zoom, zip, zoom. You press a button, you zip, zoom. I think in the Wii version you have to shake the rear remote, depending on your controller setup. I don't remember exactly, to be honest, but in any case, I like it a lot. It really works. In general, when people ask me, "Oh, do you prefer the adventure type of style, like momentum, precision platforming, or do you prefer the boost style of gameplay for the Sonic games?" I like both. I think 2D and 3D Sonic games work both without the boost and with the boost. It's not necessarily if the boost or not is good, which is a humongous debate in the Sonic community. It's more about how it's used and how the level design is designed and how fun it is, and just, is it good? Is it actually good? I think Sonic doesn't need the boost, but it's just become a norm, and I'm okay with that personally. I think it has its own place, and I wouldn't mind it taking a break for a couple of games going forward, but I wouldn't mind it coming back every once in a while. It's perfectly fine, and I think it works. And it definitely works really fun here on Unleashed, and probably Unleashed proper. Well, I should say proper 360 as well. So I personally have no problem with that at all. The Werehog slash nighttime levels as well, though, I don't like it. I don't like it. It's really hard for me to get into games where you just kind of mindlessly kill enemies. You just kind of slap them around. I do like stuff like Kingdom Hearts action RPGs. But what's different about Kingdom Hearts and the nighttime stages in Unleashed or Unleashed is that in action RPGs like Kingdom Hearts, you have different like skills and abilities, and sometimes your performance is ranked, like in DMC, for example. And at least for a good chunk of those games, you're not just all powerful, like bam, bam, you're dead. And maybe there's some damage sponges. It takes a while to kill an enemy, but still, it feels like you have to actively participate instead of just mashing a button or shaking your Wii remote around. Because I'm just remembering right now, you have to fucking shake the Wii remote to kill the enemies. That hurts, man. That really hurts. So, just, it was physically painful for me to play that as well. Overall, that's what makes me enjoy action RPGs instead of whatever the fuck Unleashed was trying to do. It's just tedious and annoying, and there's no strategy. You just kind of beat them up. It's over. You gotta do it again, again, again. And it takes over 20 minutes on average to beat these levels. These levels are supposed to be done at maybe at the most 5 minutes. That's a pretty long ass Sonic level, but that's still fine. It's just, it's not fun. I don't like that. I don't like that shit. It's nasty. So, basically, I have another Adventure 2 situation in my hands where I love a big chunk of the game, I hate a big chunk of the game. But just like Adventure 2, I loved going back to those daytime stages and play them over and over and over again. I spent so many hours and days of my life just playing those stages, and it's so great fun. I really want to play the Xbox 360 version of Sonic Unleashed and also try out those DLC daytime stages as well because I heard they're really hard. And when I'm in the mood for Sonic again, that's definitely something I'll look into. But we'll see. It's hard to do that. I don't have an Xbox 360 on me. I actually own an Xbox One, but I heard the best way to play Unleashed is to have a Series X. I do own a physical copy of Sonic Unleashed. Hell, it's also sealed. Like, it's a sealed Xbox 360 copy. Actually, here's a funny story about that. My stepdad was a delivery man for Amazon, I believe. So he delivered people's packages. Apparently, nobody wanted the Sonic Unleashed Xbox 360 copy that they ordered. Maybe it was recalled or something. So my stepdad gave it to me, and now I have it. So I guess I have a sealed copy of Unleashed now. And I've had that for like very very long time. That was before I even got an Xbox One, which is very very funny. So I don't know. It's just a nice little thingy, a nice trinket in my game collection. I don't have a humongous video game collection. It's quite big, but it's not gargantuan. I'm not crazy about it. In fact, I buy most of my games digitally anyways nowadays. I'm not a big physical collector, but no. As long as game consoles keep supporting physical releases, I'll pick up a game or two physically when I feel like it. It's just nice to have it sometimes. And besides, it's perfect for video game preservation, which I am humongously for. Video game presentation? Well, yes, but no. Video game preservation is very important. It's Video games are art, and art should be preserved for everyone to enjoy in their original and more consumable contexts. You really need both. And I just wish there was a better way to have or be able to legally play original the original ways to play these older games. It's just really hard. Like, it's just really hard to be able to legally play Sonic and the Secret Rings because you gotta own a Wii and the game. That's hard to do. It's hard to get nowadays. And it's gonna just keep getting harder as years go by unless something changes. Or unless the game gets re-released. But even then, it won't be in its original form factor. So, I don't know. Video game preservation's hard. But I feel like I could go on about that some other time. For now, Sonic and the Black Knight. I have never played it. I played Secret Rings. I guess my family never just found out that Sonic and the Black Knight existed. I heard that it has good moments. It has a good story, supposedly, and it's fun sometimes, but also not fun sometimes. Basically, it's just Secret Rings 2, except Sonic has a sword. I like the music. That's it. Okay, now we're finally down the list. We still have a few games here. Not even a few. I have like 6 left. Oh my god. But still, we're a decent way through, so pat ourselves on the back. I've been here for a long time. I'm still fucking tired. Guess it goes to show that I have a lot more to say about Sonic than Mario, which makes sense because Mario inherently is very formulaic to some extent, and then the stuff gets added on top. But with Sonic, it's just so varied and unique, and sometimes just having something to yell about is fun. So, they have their pros and cons, as always. In any case, Sonic Colors. I really like this one. I don't think it's the game ever. It is a game, but, I think Sonic Colors is, overall, a fun game. And it doesn't have to be anything granular. It does have moments where it's like, whoa, that was quite fun, and I might want to do that again. But overall, it's about a 4-hour game, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just very short and very simple, a very light story compared to Sonic Unleashed. I didn't even talk about the story in that one. That one is more grandiose, world adventure. Like, wow, this, that, and there's a gods, and you gotta beat 'em up, Super Sonic. There's not even a Super Sonic in this game. Who cares? It's fine. Okay, I just did a quick Google check actually, and apparently there is Super Sonic in Sonic Colors. Except you basically have to 100% the game, so fuck that. I'm not gonna do that. I don't want. That's not even. The game isn't even designed with Super Sonic in mind, really. So I don't really care. In any case, it's just a simple, fun game, and I like its mechanics. It works pretty well throughout the majority of it. There just isn't a lot to say. I think the story is simple and stupid, but it's fine. It's charming in its own silly way. I'm not a big stickler of, a Sonic story should be big and grandiose like Adventure 2. Would I like that? Yeah, I do like that. I do like when Sonic stories really try to be fun and engaging. It's just Sonic Colors is just Sonic and Tails go to, like, Eggman Space Amusement Park. Gotta save an alien race from enslavement. I mean, that sounds more serious than it is, but it's just like, look at me, I'm Sonic! Ah! No copyright law in the universe is gonna stop me! So, capturing Eggman, important. Anyways, I think it's just a simple, solid game. Was it worth $60 when it came out? Kinda. Kinda. If you just want a solid platformer. I mean, there was way better options. I mean, just get Mario Galaxy, guys. Come on. But It was fine. I liked it. I didn't play it a lot in its time, like I mentioned. I played it actually earlier, not this year. I think that was last year. Wow, time flies by. Yeah, I played this last year apparently. Whoo boy. Either way, yeah, I played it the past year or two of my life, and it's good. It's pretty good. A good time. I don't really feel a big itching to come back to it anytime soon, but maybe in the future I would like to. It's just a nice romp. It's just something to play, something easy to digest. If you just want a fun, feel good, sometimes a little bit difficult, but overall just smooth experience. Even if relatively simple, I recommend playing Sonic Colors. It's just very unfortunate that the definitive edition, or I think it's called Sonic Colors Ultimate, really sucks. But it's the most readily available version of the game. So unfortunately, that's that. As always, the music is great, and I love it to death, and it's wonderful. So that's about it. That's all I gotta say for Sonic Colors. But oh baby, Kachinko Baginko, we got Sonic Generations next apparently. Whoo! I really love this game. It is quite jinky. I don't like the 2D segments, which basically means I don't like half of the game. I'm just not a fan of how 2D Sonic, classic Sonic feels. But I like the 3D segments. I love just blasting through. I love just it feels fun. It's a really fun game. I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I think I lost a lot of people in the audience who were kind of barely following along, but not really. Let me just take a small step back. So Sonic Generations is, I think it was an anniversary game for the Sonic series, where we have our modernized and speedy, quite long leg uh, modern Sonic meeting up with his classic iteration of himself. And yeah, half of the game you play as like 2D levels as classic Sonic, and the other half you get to play as 3D Sonic or modern Sonic. I said fucking. I mean that's not wrong. It is 3D Sonic. Um, so hey, you know what? That's fun. It's a good time. The 2D levels aren't bad. It's just it doesn't feel as fun or fluid as the classics or even as Sonic Rush to my memory. So it was okay. It was like the necessary evil of I want to just play through every level casually, but it's not bad. It's fine and janky, but it's not bad. And I could definitely say the same about the 3D levels, but they're just good fun. They're just really fun to blast through. And just seeing the different levels in Sonic's history represented is very delightful. We have obviously Green Hill Zone, most replayed level in the first Sonic game ever because it's the first one and it's really good. Chemical Plant Zone, of course. Angel Island Zone. That one city from Sonic Adventure 1. I don't know, some other a city escape from Adventure 2. You have one level from Sonic 06. I don't know why I'm listing these off. There's literally no reason for me to list this off, but it's just basically almost all the most memorable levels from each mainline Sonic game at that point. Again, even 06. Wow. It was great to see. And getting to play them both in 2D and in 3D is also a good treat, even though I only care about the 3D stuff, to be fair. I would play Generations a lot more, but the game just crashes on me. I own it on Steam, and I've tried to fix it without modifying it, and with modifying it, it just doesn't want to work. And I do have a couple of mods I don't really need. Like, for example, I have a mod that lets me never game over because I already beat the game without modifying it. I just wanted to have the option to be able to restart because if you restart levels in this game, you lose a life. Then if you run out of lives, you got to game over to get your five back, and it's just a hassle. I just want to be able to play these levels, like try as many times as I want, so I have an infinite life thing. I have other couple of modifications that shouldn't be too taxing on my system, like better graphics and all that kind of stuff. Basically, very small things to improve gameplay. I think the biggest like enhancement I've added besides the infinite lives is like a better camera. I think I actually turned it off. Either way, I didn't like completely mod it out the wazoo. Like I only added smaller stuff that really shouldn't be making it crash. And before I even modded it, it just kept crashing. It can handle better now. I kind of have like a anti-crash mod. I believe it's something similar to help it out, but sometimes it just freezes. Or sometimes it stutters, and other times it just dies. It just closes on its own. So I wish there was a more competent modern port of Sonic Generations because it's not one of the greatest Sonic games in terms of pure control, but it's still really solid. It's still a good time, and I don't know if you just want a fun platformer that is clunky but is quite charming, and it is proud of what it offers, and it's fun to replay it to all hell. Yeah, pick up a console copy of Sonic Generations. It's great. Just don't bother getting it on Steam, even though that's probably the platform most of you have if you play video games often. It's sadly not gonna work very well. And it's unfortunate, but maybe one day we'll get a re release. I can definitely see that. I also feel the same thing with Sonic Unleashed. I want the 360 version of Unleashed to be re released on modern platforms. It would be very nice. But actually good this time, guys? Come on, Sega. You can do better than what you did with Sonic Colors. I believe in you, okay? So, Sonic Lost World is next. This is considered mainline. I've been reading off of a list to kind of keep track of what's going on. It's just a list of all the mainline Sonic games. Apparently, Sonic Lost World is next. I didn't know that was considered mainline, but okay. I honestly kind of forgot about that game, but now that I'm thinking about it, I like it quite a bit. Uh, the whole idea is that this is pretty much Mario Galaxy except Sonic the Hedgehog. So, yeah, you know what? Not bad. I never beat this game, but I got the Wii U, I think the Deadly 6 edition. Wow, so special. And when I did play it, I really enjoyed it. Although it's really weird to have a Sonic game have a run button, I think that was a bad idea. I mean, if you wanted to like have Sonic be able to walk and run, it could have been a toggle or option it to be a toggle. It's just really weird to have a 3D Sonic game or any Sonic game with a run button. That's fucking bizarre. But I mean, if you don't mind holding the run button, which I know a lot of people do. For me, I really don't mind more often than not. It's pretty good. It's solid. I don't know what else to say about it. I haven't played it ever since I was relatively young, so for whatever reason, I just kind of lost interest, like how Sonic lost his world. Oh, anyway, if I were to assume what made me lost interest, it's probably just my ADHD acting up again and just wanting to play other Nintendo games or other Sonic games or whatever I wanted to play at the time. That's just a thing that happens to me. I might be super interested in a game, and then I see another game or another piece of media that I want to consume a bunch of, and then I just forget about it and it gets left in the dust. And maybe one day I'll come back to it, or maybe I'm not. That's just kind of a me thing, and that's okay. If you stop enjoying a piece of media, even though you really liked it from the beginning, partway through, whether you stopped enjoying it or you grew out of it or whatever, it's okay just to bail out in the middle. No one's going to be mad at you, no one's going to be upset. It just happens, and that's okay. So take it from me. Just be a bailer. But, don't do that in everything in life. Just only the things that make you upset that you don't have to do. Like it's not like a do or die kind of thing. Well, I really don't have anything else to say about Lost World. Again, good music, Sonic music, good. Yes. um, before we get to the dreaded Sonic Forces, apparently Sonic Mania isn't listed on here as a mainline title. I mean, I personally consider it a mainline title. It's a big deal. It's probably the most popular Sonic game ever. So, I want to talk about Mania. It's just kind of hard to because, well, what can I even say? I mean, I said a lot about different Sonic games earlier that I feel like a lot of people have said just everything about already, but with Mania, it feels a bit different. I just feel like there's not a lot to say, but I'll try. So Sonic Mania is basically it's a best hits album of the classic Sonic games 1, 2, 3, Knuckles, and CD. Wow. And it's made with love, and passion, and the developers are really cool and also making their own game. Uh, they break away from Sega, and now they're making this awesome game called Penny's Big Breakaway, which I'm gonna play. It's gonna come out next year, and it's gonna be so cool. In any case, what Mania does is take the best parts about the classic games, whether it be the level design and the music, or even the fundamental feel of how the characters played, and just make them wonderful, make them perfect, make them just great. Perfect maybe is not the right word, but makes them just so fluid and fun. The mechanics feel fun. The momentum feels great. Sonic has never felt better in 2D. So does Tails and Knuckles. And also fan favorites Ray and Almighty. Well, not Almighty. His name is just Mighty. I don't know why I put all on top of it. What the fuck is wrong with me? But if you don't know about Ray and Mighty, don't worry. They're like gay for each other or something. I don't know, like Sonic the Fighters or something like. I don't know. Sorry, not Sega the Fighters. I meant not. I mean Sonic the Fighters. I was thinking of Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, which is a very weird arcade cabinet thing where Ray and Mighty were introduced. Whatever. It's a whole thing. I'm not gonna play or talk about it. Bleh. But on top of Sonic Mania reimagining these beautiful classic Sonic levels and music and what have you to make it better than it's ever been before, it also introduces new levels too. I think it only has 3 or 4 new levels that it introduces, but still, a big chunk of the game, the big appeal of the game is just a brand new, really good, really solid 2D Sonic game, and then some new stuff too. So it's not just old schlop given to you again. And even so, the old schlop is lovingly made, and it really is just wonderful and very passionate and very lovely. And apparently, it's so lovely that my lunch was coming to say hello. Excuse me. That was nasty. Ugh. Simply put, Sonic Mania is just a masterpiece. And if there is one game I would recommend somebody playing that's relating to Sonic as their first game, it'd honestly be Sonic Mania. I mean, obviously they wouldn't be able to appreciate all the differences and inherent remixes, and they won't have the nostalgia kind of like pointing fingers of whoa they did this and they did that. That doesn't really matter though. It's just such a really fun game, and it released at $20. This beautiful, wonderful game for $20. I would have paid 30. I would have paid 40. That's how good it is. That's genuinely how much I would have paid at launch. Now, I mean, I think it's a solid, good price for where it's at. I mean, maybe 30. I could definitely see it getting away with being sold at 30. If it was to be re-released with like new levels or something, I wouldn't mind at all. Just bring the old development team back, please. I don't trust anyone else with the game other than Christian Whitehead and everyone else who made it. But wow, it's just really great, and I have nothing but respect for the game. Not perfect. There's some things about it that I don't like, but they're just nitpicks. They don't really matter. It's just so good. If you, for some reason you don't care about Sonic the Hedgehog, or you really haven't really thought about it in your life at all, and there is one game that you want to play, and you are, I don't know, a casual video game player, or just in general, just a gamer, consider Sonic Mania. It is great. Also, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, that's also pretty good too, but yeah. Alright, I think this is gonna be the weirdest take I've had just ever in my life, just for anything relating to media. Like, I've had bad takes before, and I've had strange takes before, but this is my weirdest, the strangest, the most finkelsteinest. So, Sonic Forces is objectively a bad and unpolished game, but also it's kind of a comfort game for me. I am not inherently nostalgic for Sonic Forces, and I don't ever want to be honest. But it's just so easy. It's just so bland. It's just so simple and cutthroat that I can't help but just kind of like plow through the game and just kind of be like, ah. it's just one of those games where if you want to turn off your brain and just kind of go and like don't worry about it, just kind of blast through, quite literally with the boost mechanic, since it's also in this game as well. Just kind of play Sonic Forces, I guess. I mean, there's definitely other games where you could turn off your brain and enjoy it much more of quality than Sonic Forces. Basically, almost any other video game that exists has more quality than Sonic Forces. But something about how stupid and how easy and just how nothing it is makes me appreciate other video games way more. Sometimes you have to play or see a bad piece of media that really makes you appreciate all the good ones, that make you appreciate all the effort people put into projects, old or new, fan or official. And it's kind of sad to see that this mainline Sonic game kind of evokes the feeling of fuck. I guess we tried, but we suck at this now. But I appreciate it being bad, so I can recognize the good in other things, like Sonic 4. Wait, shit. No! Sonic Frontiers, not Forces, no! Oh, that was the worst time to misspoke. Oh my god. Well, in any case, Sonic Frontiers is going to be the last game I'm talking about today because I haven't played Sonic Superstars. I'm just going to briefly mention I don't have the money for that. Money's a little tight on me. On me? No, the money's a little tight for me right now. To be transparent, I had the option to either choose Mario Wonder or Sonic Superstars. I chose the obvious choice. Listen, I'm a Mario fan first. I'm sorry, Sonic guys, people, fellas. I mean, be in my position. If you had $60 and plus tax, what depending on where you live, and you had to pick this really interesting, innovative, and creative, at least on the outside looking in before the game came out, Mario, or this kind of bland and who knows how good it's gonna be Sonic game, which one would you choose? I mean, if you're a Sonic fan, obviously you would choose the Sonic game, I guess. But I'd say I'm definitely a little more of a Mario fan. But there are Sonic games that I like more than some of the Mario catalog. It's a back and forth as always. But I had to choose the obvious choice. And I'm not interested in Superstars. I might play it one day, but it's just on the outside looking in, it just kind of looks bland and unpolished. Maybe it has good qualities. I heard some good things, and I heard lots of bad things too. That's my brief, really nothing burger opinion from the outside looking in. So sorry. Maybe one day. That day is not today. But I have beaten Sonic Frontiers, and I even 100%ed it twice. Twice meaning I completed it before its first big update, and then I completed all the stuff for the big first update. So let me talk about it, because I've had quite a number of words to say about Frontiers to different friends and such over the past year or so, or actually more. Sonic Frontiers has been out for over a year now, so I'm gonna try to keep it concise, but that also might mean I might go on for another hour. So hold on to your pantaloons. Okay, Sonic Frontiers overall, I think is an okay to good game. I don't think it's a great game. I don't think it's a bad game. I don't think it's even a mid game. I think it's a good game. A pretty good game with bad, clunky moments and weird cutscenes and sometimes really, really stiff, awkward animations. But when it's good, it's good. And when it's bad, you at least I wanted to tolerate it. Not just because I'm a Sonic fan, but also because it isn't horrible. We're not talking about Sonic Adventure 2, like Knuckles and Rouge levels. We're talking like I just wish this was better, and it's fine, but it's just so. I guess to start with the story, since I have words to say about the story. I kind of want to focus on one element at a time. I've been jumping around with everything and everything up until this point, but I'm trying to be more focused now here. So I'm trying. I swear. Bleh. Story. I like it. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's bad either. It's okay. The story is Sonic, Tails, and Amy, and also Knuckles eventually. They find themselves in the mysterious Starfall Islands, and the Sonic's friends are trapped there digitally, and he has to find ways to make them escape, and along with himself, and fight these gigantic titans, basically godlike deities, and kill them. Gotta kill them all. A supersonic, and it's really cool. And okay, I gotta slow my roll. The basic story structure is Sonic finds himself in a new island. He finds his friend. He breaks free his friend. Then they talk a lot. They collect the seven. Collect? Excuse me? I know I say words weird sometimes, but my ass did not just say collect. What the fuck? Huh? Anyway, that aside, Sonic collects seven Chaos Emeralds. Ah, the usual seven emeralds. Illness. And that could be either by going across the island or doing these like quick and easy challenge type things with his friends, companions, Knuckles, and yeah. Once you get them all together, now you gotta fight the Titan and in the area, and you do that 4 times. You do that 3 times, and then the fourth time you gotta climb up a bunch of towers and just kind of wait. What do you climb up the towers? What do you do at the towers? I think you activate something. I I I go fuck. I don't remember. But yeah, you gotta climb up towers in this fourth island, and then the fifth. Instead of trying to save anyone actively, you just kind of go around and you collect more chaos, the chaos emeralds again, and then you fight the final bosses. If you're playing a hard mode, you get to fight two bosses. One of them is a really really cool flashy Sonic supersonic fight with a Titan. The other is a shoot 'em up. That's weird. I mean, that's why would you do that for a final boss fight? But whatever. Yeah, I know I said I wasn't gonna try to go all over the place, but I just couldn't help it. Anyway, story. So you do that first 3 islands. Sonic's like, oh, friend, cool. What I like about it, what I really like, my favorite part about the story is that these characters are getting more fleshed out now. I feel like they're starting to have more personality. I neglect to mention this before because, again, Sonic and stories are not very important to me, but when it's good, it really enhances the experience for me. Like in Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. This time, the characters and story is, well, the characters are well written. Sonic feels cocky and adventurous, but not like an asshole. Tails is introspective about how he's regressed as a character since Adventure 1 and wants to become better now. And I just think that's awesome because his characterization and forces was horrible. So I'm getting basically a chance to redeem his character after that horrible mainline games just portrayal of him is wonderful. Knuckles is also very fun. Also, same cocky, kind of like a jockish friend, but still well-meaning and want to help out, even if he is a little hot-headed. It's just perfectly great for how these characters are relatively portrayed nowadays. Amy, she is weird. Unlike Tails, where he recognizes his downfalls throughout the franchise and wants to be better going forward in the story, Amy just completely changes from being a hyperfixated, obsessed stalker, basically like lover of Sonic. Not well, Sonic doesn't love her back, but she loves Sonic, if that makes sense. Instead, she just kind of changes, and now she's all about strength and. I mean, she still cares about love. Love is very important to her, but she's more about the inner strength and wanting to spread love across the world, which is a great way to take a character, but the story does not accommodate for how sudden it changes. Before, they even start changing us characters before the game is start. She's already kind of different. The way her voice is directed is different, which I guess kind of goes across the board, but it really has a different energy, and she just kind of acts like that from the get go, and I don't know, like something happened to her between Forces and Frontier. That's all I'm saying, and that's not a bad thing to just drastically change a character between different iterations. But since there's other characters that are self-referential rather, of what happened prior games in the series, and her character arc, like her big character thing about her being obsessed over Sonic, is not even mentioned. And I try to have every single optional conversation with each character in my first playthrough here. I just think it's weird. Not even a mention. Just she's different now. I don't know if this is like executive meddling. If Sega kind of being like, I don't know. I guess you're gonna have to change it completely. No halvesies this time, or if the writers just really, really want to ignore that. But whoever fault it is, I just think it's bad because you can admit a character's downfalls without ruining that character's reputation. Just like Tails. I mean, everybody loves Tails for the most part anyway, but I understand a lot of people don't like Amy. In fact, I used to not really care about Amy outside of, just her existing and having pretty okay levels in Adventure 1 because her character was annoying to me, but now it's just kind of awkward. I'm sure the weird taste will get out of my mouth over time. When I see more games with her like this, I'm sure I'll be like, oh, okay. But it would be even funnier and stupid if she just went back to being obsessed over Sonic. So either way, I'll take it. I don't really care. It is a specific context of the story. It's super weird and awkward. Um, so for other main characters, we have Sage, which is like this, I guess, gothic, floating digital girl who is also Eggman's artificial daughter, and she can control cyberspace, which is where Sonic's friends are stuck in between, and Sonic can travel to try to beat these linear levels. She is okay. I like where they took her character of kind of being a nuisance to Sonic, and then having a change of heart when she kind of becomes self-aware of the situation and realizing that she could do better than just kind of blindly listening to her father. But it just didn't feel rewarding. It just kind of happened, and I don't know. It's like an on-off switch, which I guess would work since she is artificial. I believe. I don't think she's a real person. She's very beep boopy, robot girl, or I should say like file girl. File girl? No, digital girl. Like digital, like a JPEG. Like that. That's what I meant. What the fuck is a file girl? I don't want to know. You keep that away from me. And then there's Eggman, which is either you think he is just very bland and typical villain guy, or interesting and has layers this time. Because when it comes to the story, if you don't do any of the optional story stuff, then he just is just the usual Eggman. He's there and he has a nice moment with Sage in the end, and being father-like and what have you. But at the same time, if you go out of your way to do optional story stuff, which also means fishing with Big the Cat, baby. Ah, yeah. You can buy items and etc. at Big the Cat's fishing pond portals across the 4 out of the 5 fishing portals. I mean islands. My bad. 4 out of the 5 islands. Whoops. You can find Big the Cat, and you can do fishing with him. Super simple mini game, but you can get stuff there, important items or experience, whatever. But you could also get these Eggman demos or memos, not demos. Eggman demo. No, you can get these Eggman memos, which is just self-recorded logs of Eggman talking about whatever's going on. Talk about his experiences being stuck at the Starfall Islands and Sage and his relationship with other characters, mostly Sage. It's interesting, and it's not like the most granular or like eye-opening or plot twisty kind of thing. It's just a nice extra layer of story if you wanted a little more, and I did want a little more. And finding that early on was fun and nice, and it makes me think a little bit. It's nothing too crazy, like I said, but it's a nice cherry on top. If you wanted something more out of Eggman, I just felt like, or rather, I wished more of that kind of introspective personality was injected into Eggman throughout the story proper. So those two halves of him, or those two sides of how he presents himself outwardly and how he kind of thinks about himself inwardly or by himself, is more similar. Because he always will be silly and kind of one note to an extent. That's kind of how his character is for now. But having that depth in regular cutscenes and the plot that everyone will see would also really help and make him feel fresh and different, and kind of doing more of that and introducing that. And if you wanted to make him a more interesting villain, would definitely help. Then again, having different and variety of Sonic villains would also help. It doesn't have to just be Eggman, like summoning some sort of god, or creating some sort of powerful creature. You can have a different guy. That would be nice. But I get it. It's for marketing. Everyone knows Eggman, Mr. Robotnik. Fuck, we get it. Besides the characters, the overall story is kind of all about figuring out what the Starfall Islands are and what the Chaos Emeralds are doing here, and just all these little pieces kind of culminating together. And ultimately, the story is okay. I don't even think talking about the reveals is inherently important. Just know that I am not a big fan, but also it makes sense, and it's okay. I'm okay with it. I just feel like once the mystery was over, the story kind of loses its backbone, or it didn't have enough time to be fleshed out, and it just kind of happens, kind of like all at once. That's what happens. Like Sonic gets to learn about what really happened on the islands and what's going on, and it's not as interesting to me as I thought it would be. I wasn't expecting like masterclass writing. I was just kind of hoping, I don't know, something a little bit more, a little bit interesting. It's not bad. It's just I don't really care so much. And I was kind of hoping it was a little bit more than that, but it's okay. You can't always get what you want, and the story is okay. It's perfectly serviceable. I'm more here for the character interactions anyway. Like any second this iteration of Sonic and Knuckles or Sonic and Tails are on screen, I'm having a great time and I love it. So I always can go back to that. Alright, so now let's talk about the gameplay now. So the gameplay in Frontiers is breaking up into two halves. You have the open zone, because it's not really open world, but open zoned area for you to explore, find collectibles, fight enemies, and etc. And then there are the linear levels, something more akin to Sonic Colors, or excuse me, or Unleashed. A good chunk of these are 2D. Before the major updates, some of them are good. A handful of them are mostly 3D. Um, but I much prefer this how this Sonic feels and controls in the 3D environments, and 2D just does not feel right at all. But we'll get to there when we get there. Let's start with the open zoned gameplay. I think it's okay. Getting to run around and interact with things, specifically being able to interact with these little kind of like challenges or puzzles and unlocking parts of the map. I think it's fun. Some people really don't like how you have to basically play like essentially baby game puzzles to unlock parts of the map, but even though most of them aren't hard and they don't get any semblance of hard until the final few islands, I still think that they're a nice pace breaker. Just something really simple and fast to get over with and just kind of do. And that's not always a bad thing. Besides, you always feel like you're progressing because you're unlocking parts of the map. And once you completely unlock the map, then you can fast travel to some places, and that's always very handy. Then there's the combat, and it definitely is way better than Unleashes without a sauerkraut. No, without a shadow of a doubt. Oh, who the fuck just goes like without a sauerkraut? I'm not. I mean, that's very silly, and actually, I might start doing that from now on. But no, 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 no. Without a shadow of a doubt, no edgelord here. We enjoy what? I really think that the combat is fine. Sorry, my mind just went thousands of directions. I'm pulling it back in. Okay, so the moves are flashy and they're fun, and sometimes they're fairly simple to understand. And there is a skill tree too, and a whole experience thing. It sounds like a lot, and it is a bit of a thing. It's quite nice, but also it's not great either. So here, let me break it down for you. There's enemies. Some of them are simple, some of them are bosses. Simple enemies, they drop experiences or these items that if you take to this NPC, then you can upgrade your stats, power or defense, what have you. Then the boss, or I should say mini boss enemies, or I don't know if they're really, I don't know. Let's just say boss, just to be simple here. The boss enemies, if you defeat them, they will drop a gear. Gears are used to unlock the linear levels that I was mentioning before. So that makes sense. You know, you fight enemies, you get experience or items to improve yourself and stats or unlock other parts of the game. That's perfectly fine, inherently. But the combat feels just, I wouldn't say half baked. I would say it is three quarters baked. So there is a lot of thought, and it does work perfectly fine for the most part. It just, everything you need to beat the game, you can almost avoid all combat because you can get through the fishing mini game. And even if you don't even do the fishing mini game, you could just find those stat boosters, or well, not boosters, stat improve, increaser items, or what? You can find things that help improve you as a character, like buffs and etc. And also find those gears just by exploring around. So there's many different options for you to be able to avoid combat, which some people might think it's a good thing, and I don't know how to feel about that personally. I kind of wish the combat was more, I wouldn't say mandatory, but I feel like it was more incentivized and had more development time poured into how it feels and how it works, because it's not bad. It's just you really don't have to. The only fights you have to do is the Titan fights, which makes sense. You know, you gotta beat the big bad to go on. Average video game mechanic. Yeah, uh huh. But pretty much outside of the Titan fights in the game, there is no other fights that are mandatory, and that's not bad. But well, I think there's a couple in the tutorial area that you have to do, but after that, like once you're free, once the tutorial stops holding your hand, there's almost no other to like mandatory fight, and that's weird. I still pretty much fought everything in my path. I wanted to see as much as this game as possible, but I don't know. That doesn't really change the fact that you can just kind of skip everything and just get what you want elsewhere just by exploring. I don't know. I don't know what else they could even put there. I mean, rings are everywhere, of course, but after you get your max amount of rings, what else could you do? Um. Oh, and I always have problems with the abilities with in Sonic Frontiers with the fighting. There's this one ability where if you hold these two buttons, then Sonic does this animation where he summons out these like power balls and shoots them out, and it takes a little while. But there's other commands that use very similar buttons, and I don't know if this is a me issue or if I'm not understanding something or the game is like very confused because it's not my controller. My controller works perfectly fine. For the record, I'm playing this on computer, uh, and I've only played with the PlayStation 5 controller, but in no other game I've had this problem, whether before or now. So, again, I don't know if this is a me thing or if this is the game is just weird like that, or it's the specific Steam version. Whatever the case may be, I don't know. Just the energy balls keep happening, and it's like the worst move. You could just say, "Oh, I'm just skipping to the skill tree," but you have to remember, I wanted to 100% everything in this game when it came out, and I pretty much completed the skill tree fairly early on. I should just say decently early on, more or less. So I don't think there's ways to turn off. If I can, I would, but I don't see an option. Or maybe I'm just dumb across the board. Whatever the case may be, that's not good. Doing a move that you didn't want to, and that constantly happening, and you trying to figure it out why it's happening, and you don't know, and it's also a problem that other people have because I've seen other streamers struggle with that as well. So I'm more inclined to think it's not like a general skill issue. It's genuinely a problem with the game's, or I should say, the combat's move set when you have everything unlocked. I don't know. Very, very icky. Besides the combat, I think exploring three out of the five islands in this game is relatively fun. They're relatively fine. I gotta say, two of them are okay. Okay, one of them, one of the two, is the island where you just climb up the towers. So I had fun with that. Okay, so scratch what I said actually. Okay, let's rewind a little bit. One island out of this five, I do not like exploring, and that one is the third island. Oh, I don't like it. So this island, this game in general, when it comes to exploration, suffers with forcing you into a 2D perspective. And you might think, well, if it's inherently the challenge to do things in a two-dimensional perspective, that's not bad, right? Sometimes, most of the time, things do not work as intended. Yeah, you're forced into the perspective, but what if you didn't even meant to go there in the first place? You've already been there multiple times, and there's literally nothing else for you to do? Then you kind of have to awkwardly make your way out. Or sometimes the camera is fucked, or sometimes you're not even in the right place and the camera gets stuck in the fucking place. There really is just so many problems with forcing a 2D perspective because it's not just like, here's a dedicated zone. You go in, and then you do the thing and get out, and then you go back to the regular playing field. No, it's just right there in the middle. And I feel like if they had some sort of system where, okay, you have to press this specific button or be on this platform, and then it activates a 2D section, and then when you complete the thing, or if you touch the platform again, like you jump off and jump back on, then it goes back to normal, a regular perspective. You don't get to do it. And then, like, the requirements to go through that 2D area gets closed off. Something like that. That was just like an elevator pitch that came to me out of nowhere right now. Something similar to that, anything different, would be way, way more useful and just be more friendly on the player because it really sucks and it really is a hindrance. It really makes me not want to explore the third island, but I still did mostly top to bottom because I wanted to see again what the game had to offer. Um, and the other islands have this issue too. It's just really, really bad in Island 3. Island 5 has a good chunk of its exploration also stuck in a 2D perspective like that. It's not as bad. It just happens, and I really don't like it. It's just bad. Although the rest of the exploration is quite fun. You get to run around. Boost is back, but not like the other games. It's more like a run button. So again, Sonic game with a run button. Oh well. It kind of is more like traditional boost in terms of speed once you max out your ring counter, or you completely max out, I believe, your ring stat. Some one of the stats that you max out will keep you permanently like supercharged in terms of boost. which is very nice. Otherwise, if you don't have that stat completely maxed out, then you go at a slightly slower, pace than that. But well, I wouldn't say slightly, but you go relatively slower. But it's still faster than just walking everywhere, of course. So, oh well, it's fine. It works. And hey, having a boost where you don't just destroy everything in your path is also fine by me as well. So it's a good use. It's good. It works what it had to do. What? It did good for what it was. That's what I mean. Yep. Yeah. Talking about stats helping you out, there's four stats you can upgrade in total. I already mentioned the strength and defense, and also the ring capacity. I don't remember what the fourth one is, but that doesn't really matter for specifics. All you need to know is that for the strength and defense stats, all you have to do is go up to this one NPC, hand over, or you just interact with them, and then they just convert the items that relate to increasing that level for you, just like that, no problem. The other one, before one of the major updates, you had to select individually, one by one, every single level when you hit the requirement. And instead of a specific item, there is these little creatures. Their name is Cocos. Uh, you gotta go around the islands and collect them. They're not like in any specific area. They also respawn in the same areas as well. They're just around, so just keep your eyes out and collect them as you're running along the fields and such. It's not that bad. It's just you have to painstakingly upgrade each level one by one if you meet the requirement to upgrade it, and it's just it takes a long time. Like if you were to go from level 1 to 99, you have to click yes and go, and then a little animation happens. That takes maybe let's say about 12 seconds. So do 12 seconds times 99. No. 99 times 2 times 12 seconds. Whatever. You get the idea. It takes a while, and it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just like it could have just been streamlined so it could have been an option. And they did add that option. They add an option just to give everything that you want, everything on into a level for what you have, or one by one if you wanted to. But the fact that it didn't have that from the get go is dumb. And we had to wait, what, like multiple months for that, even though that's one of the biggest issues in the game that could have been easily fixed after like 2 weeks that it came out. I mean, listen, I am not a game developer. I don't know how easy it is to implement that kind of thing, but the team was still actively working on improving the game. They could have just give us like like a early Christmas present and be like, here you go. I know you had a big problem with that, but now it's an option. I don't know. I just felt like it took them too long to add it, but better to have it, not to have it. I painstakingly upgraded everything to level 99, so I had to deal with that. And I also recorded it on stream, or rather, I streamed it, and I have it saved on the internet publicly as of right now. And I don't plan to take it down, so if it's not there, then that's not me. But there you go. You can watch me suffer if you really want. I'm sure you'll find it, but probably not. It's not worth your time. Outside of that, we now have the linear levels. I'm just going to keep it brief here. They mostly suck. And also, they reuse a lot of level designs from past 3D Sonic games, whether it's Sonic Adventure 1 or 2, Generations versions of these levels, or Unleashed, or whatever. They don't steal the aesthetics, except for Sonic Generations, Green Hills, and Chemical Plant, and sometimes they're not even used correctly. And also Angel Island, that too. Or not Angel Island, my mistake. Sky Sanctuary. I think I said Angel Island earlier. Whoops. Either way, I meant to say Sky Sanctuary. Whoopsie dingle. Mistakes always happen. Blah, blah, blah. In any case, they just reuse those same 3 level themes over and over and over again, even though pretty much almost everyone and their mom who like Sonic are sick of it. It felt like, well, we didn't just had Generations and Mania. Definitely not Generations, but still, it's there, and it's like, we reused these themes so many times, and it made sense there. Those are more celebratory. Oh, let's look at our past and honor it in a new way. This is just lazy, and I'm not saying every single linear level needs a different theme, but it didn't have to be the same three that we've gotten so much over the years. And then the other one is like Generic Highway, which is probably inspired by just, I don't know, Sonic Adventure 2. I mean, it's fine. It's okay. It's technically original because it's not necessarily based on anything from what I understand, but it doesn't really help. I mean, it's nice that it's different, but you know, one fourth of something being nice doesn't make it good overall. Also, Sonic controls really weird in these linear levels for whatever reason. He just doesn't feel right. He just doesn't feel good to play as. Now, I understand they completely overhaul and make it actually very fun to play these levels and the new ones that they added in the last final update. I think they actually improved it. Oh, just general, they improved how Sonic plays and feels and the big content updates that they do. Which, by the way, these updates were completely free, which is very nice, and I appreciate that to an extent. But still, the fact that he didn't feel good to play when the game came out, and that's how I beat the entire game, I had to deal with it. And hey, I still appreciated playing it. Sometimes I enjoyed it, but knowing that most of the level design was just stolen from previous Sonic games, I don't know. I mean, sometimes borrowing elements, whether visually or mechanically, or level layouts, like parts of it, is fine for a long running series. That's okay. But just kind of copying and pasting it in this less fun way, it really makes it shine the fact that this iteration of Sonic, when it comes to linear levels, suck. And it's just really unfortunate because I really like linear Sonic levels type of thing. That's why I love Generations so much. I just think it's a very, very fun game and it's very solid. Might not be the best game of the series, but I just like playing through it because it does what it does pretty well. And here, not close, not even. So that was a major disappointment, but hey, oh, what else is a Sonic series? No, for. I was trying to say that with confidence, but that just kind of fell flat. Oh man. Anyways, that aside, next I want to briefly talk about the music. Um, there's some music in the linear levels that I appreciate. I like it a lot, and some of them are right up my alley. Others are not so much. I understand music is very subjective, but in terms of staying power or overall enjoyment and the community, from what I've gathered, I feel like it's a very, very hit or miss soundtrack. And that's okay. I don't think this music is inherently bad. It really isn't Sonic Y. It doesn't have that kind of Sonic vibe. And a lot of people like that. I personally am indifferent for most of it. There's when I like a song, I like it. When I don't, it's okay. Unless a soundtrack is actually really bad to hear, like just it hurts to hear, that's when I really, really get upset about it. But if I just personally don't like the music and it's not bothering me, then it's not a problem. It's just not for me, simply, and that's okay. However, despite the fact I'm not a big fan of the music during the supersonic fights, I love the fights themselves. They're wonderful. They're great to play. They make me feel powerful, but also doesn't make me feel too powerful, so I don't completely beat up the Titans' asses. To basically explain how it's like, imagine what I said about the combat, except there was no issues, and it was big and grandiose and cinematic. It is great. And the music, even though it's not really my kind of music, it does hype me up and want me to go beat some Titan ass and just have a good time and figure out how to defeat them and be victorious and just good. It's just wonderful. It fills me with so much excitement. When the first Titan fight was starting to happen, that's when I knew, oh, this is going to be something special. Overall, even though I don't think the game is fantastic, I still think these are the highlight of the games. And since modern 3D Sonic games kind of just use Super Sonic as like a final act kind of thing, which worked in the past, but now it just kind of feels like, again, it's really nice to see Super Sonic and do something really, really cool with it throughout the game with these major boss fights. It's fantastic. Basically, no notes. I think they are great. And I hope we get some evolution of it going forward in the mainline Sonic games, if applicable. Because just in general, there's so much you could do with Super Sonic, and I feel like they're now starting to realize or be able to do something with that potential instead of just saving it for kill the final guy. Do it now. The last thing I wanted to mention about Sonic Frontiers is the updates I was mentioning. So, the Sonic Frontiers had three major updates after its launch, and the first one was mostly, oh, here's kind of like additional challenges, which basically was just play these linear levels or do these boss fights or just fights in general as fast as you can. And then some minor improvements and like a camera mode. The second update was here we reworked Sonic's moveset both in the overworld but mostly the linear levels, and also added a bunch of challenges too. Oh, excuse me, Jesus Christ. I just ate an apple. Oh, that hurt. Man, apparently talking about Sonic Frontiers is very painful for me. Anyway, the update 2 was like, here's a bunch of challenges too in the overworld, and you could beat them. And then update 3 was the big one where they changed like the final island, and they didn't make the final boss fight shoot 'em up, so that's fun. um, Although I gotta say, this is a general thing about video game DLCs. uh, I am not always super interested in them. Even if I like the game a lot when I initially played it, it takes quite a bit for a game for me to want to replay it within a year, let alone for me to want to get DLC for it. In this case, it is free, but still, I tried to play through Sonic Frontiers' first update, and I did finish all that it had to offer, but after that, I was just kind of like, I don't really want to play this game anymore. I feel like I've seen everything and done everything, and I know there is things I haven't done, but I'm just simply not interested. There are many DLCs for games that I like or care about that come out, free or not, and I don't know, more often than not, I might just not care, and I just don't want to touch it at all. There are obviously going to be exceptions. The biggest one I can think of is Splatoon 2's Octo expansion. I'm a general Splatoon fan. I casually enjoy the series, and I wasn't really expecting to come back to it, but I don't know. So I guess a friend told me that the Octo expansion was really, really good. And then one day, like years after it came out, I said, well, fuck it. I'm going to try it out. And then I did. And I really liked it. And it's one of my favorite single player shooter experiences ever now. So, there are times where DLC will come out, and I will warm up to the idea of getting into it or trying it out or what have you. But in general, when it comes to like, oh, we're gonna keep supporting this game post its launch and add a bunch of new shit, it's kind of hard for me to justify to come back to it unless I am enthrallingly in love with it, just absolutely want more of it desperately. So it's not really the game's fault. It's just kind of how I feel, and that also means I haven't played the updates past the first major one all too much. Not even update 3 at all. And I have seen it. I've seen like the new boss fights and the new challenges and the finale, and it's okay, but I'm glad that I watched it instead of playing it, because I felt like I would have been let down. I know a lot of people said it was very exciting and happy, and again, I'm very happy for you guys, sincerely. It's just not enough for me to want to come back. I don't know if anything was enough for me to want to come back, because I had my time with Frontiers, and I'm ready to put it down until maybe a long time in the future. Maybe I want to look back at it and play it again. I don't know, but for now, I'm perfectly fine with where I left it off. 100%ing the base game when it came out, and the first update and its extra challenges, which were fun, even though it's more or less the same thing I already done, just a little more. Sometimes that's all you need. And yeah, that's pretty much my feelings about the majority of the Sonic platformers. Again, no 8-bit games, sorry. And I want to play Advance and Rush and blah blah blah. But hey, I said so much today. And if you're not satisfied by this, I'm sorry. But really, what else could I say? I've spilled my guts and I am exhausted, as you can imagine. So that's why I want to sincerely thank you for listening. This was quite a lot. I did not expect this episode to be nearly as long as it is, but hey, just more content for you to listen to, right? Not a problem at all. I'm definitely going to go rest now, but I do want to say if you want to support the show, anything and everything that you do is always immensely appreciated from the bottom of my heart. I sincerely just enjoy seeing other people enjoy what I created, even if it's something simple like this. And thank you so much if you even consider sharing the show around. And yeah, that's the best way to spread the word and get people into this whole shindig. Just spread this around, share it with a friend or family member or whoever else that might oh no, no, who might enjoy my autistic rambling. Yes. Only the truest, strongest warriors can handle, what is it, 2 hours and 40 minutes of Sonic madness, more or less. So, again, thank you for listening. I greatly appreciate it. That's all for now. Goodbye. So long. See ya. Forever. Endeavor. Ja.